and welcome to round number 7 of the iRacing Road Pro Series live here at Spa-Francorchamps, streaming live on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Qualifying is well underway for round number 7 of the season. I'm Connery Maddock, and joining me in the booth today will be Jake Sperry and of course Jonathan Simone. Will Vincent will be the guy directing behind the cameras, behind the scenes. And Jake, name a better pairing than Formula 1 cars and Spa, except for Monaco adding to that mix.
Very difficult to do that. Very interesting circuit. Is always one that you see fireworks. You go back in history, you talk about Hamilton and Raikkonen in 2008. You talk about everything that has always been about just trying to make the best spectacle possible. But arguably the longest track on the calendar at 7 kilometers. But my goodness, is this a very tricky 7 kilometers to get always 100% correct.
Yeah, one of the longest tracks on the calendar, but of course this track isn't as long as it used to be. Currently standing at just a smidge over 7 kilometers. Of course, the original design back in 1920 was a 15-kilometer race circuit that went through the villages here in Belgium, but more of an appropriate track length now with all the modern designs, or at least semi-modern designs. No tilgodromes to be seen here. As Johnny, first qualifying times just starting to come in. Michael Dinkel currently provisional pole, but that gets quickly superseded by Sebastian Job with a 1:45.9.
Good time. We want to see someone knock off Michael Dinkel because he's claimed the last few pole positions. He's been unstoppable in qualifying, and good to see Sebastian Job, who's trying to reclaim the top of the sheet somewhere in this Pro Series. He has had a couple of forgettable rounds to have and some forgettable starts too, so let's look as we're currently on board with Frederick Rasmussen here, coming through the no-name corner and the rest of the lap. He really needs to nail this section too, because Pouhon is magnificent. It's fun, but that's no point enjoying yourself now in qualifying. It's all pain, it's pressure. You need to nail every single corner and every single lap.
Absolutely. In qualifying trim, these cars are going to be on an absolute knife edge to try and extract as much qualifying time out of these machines as possible. Heading through Stavlo 1 now, slightly missed the apex there. Took a little bit too much of the entry curb, but I don't think that's going to hurt him too much. Through Stavlo 2 now, important to get a good run out of here all the way down towards Blanchimont. And now, Jake, coming towards the end of this lap, you really need to maximize this slow speed section coming out. Blanchimont is pretty easy, flat out in these cars. Through there, gets almost a slide there. 200 miles an hour coming down into the braking zone for the bus stop. Has to nail these two apexes, get the good run off to the line. And what time does he set as he heads his way? Sprint to the line. And it's a 1:45.4. That's a fantastic time, Jake.
Well, half a second quicker than your teammate, half a second quicker than anybody else on track. I'd take that any day of the week, and I think Frederick Rasmussen certainly will after a stunning lap time just like that. Not many people could argue edgeways about it. Rogers on his second lap, he'll expect to be on an out lap for that. Same could be said for Sebastian Job as well. It's the calm before the proverbial storm here, and you've got drivers like Ricardo Orozco in the mix. Position 4, Riley Preston looking for some luck in 6th. 7th, Bobby Zelensky having a very good qualifying overall. This is one of those circuits where expect the unexpected normally is the mantra.
Yeah, we really should, and I am instantly reminded, just as you say that, of the race in 2016 in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, where we had an almighty pile-up coming down into last source turn number 1. We'll talk more about that later, as the driver of Jorge Montanes, he's just coming onto a lap now. Johnny, just take us through it.
Here we go through the Kemmel Straight. The
I'm sorry, there's a couple of technical issues there with Johnny. As we will stay on board here with Jorge Montanes as he heads down towards Rivage. And, well, he's done a very, very good job thus far in this one. Good best first sector at the moment for him. Personal best, not the fastest out there on circuit, but heading down towards Pouhon now, Jake. This could be a good lap for Montanes. He just needs to nail the rest of it.
Yeah, he certainly does as he heads through this section. It looks like an opportunity that is needing to happen here as he heads into Fagnes, the right, then the left, and getting back onto the power again, heading into Stavolo on the brakes for another time, 155 kilometers an hour, back onto the power, corner pull Frere, right-hander, get on that power and really make sure that you are working for the second half of the lap as you make the run to Blanchimont. And Montañez needs this lap, he needs this because he is down in the points, 16th overall. He needs to make everything work in his favor under that Bridgestone sponsorship sign and onto the brakes as he goes down 85 kilometers an hour, final corner. Needs something, needs arguably a miracle at this stage. A top 10 would be very useful, but it's a 46.3. That's good. That's exactly what he needed.
That is exactly what he needed, and it brings him up in towards P number 10 right now, as the rest of the drivers that did set lap times earlier, they are basically on their final qualifying laps right now. So another chance for Fredrik Rasmussen to extend his already mighty gap at the front, and a chance for the drivers behind as well to get themselves even a little bit closer to that driver of the number 1 machine. Joshua Rogers headed his way across the line, a 146 flats there, still 6/10 of a second off your race leader. And when you consider that Joshua Rogers has won 2 races already so far this season, to be that far off the front in qualifying, well, that is absolutely disappointing, and I think that'd be the case for the rest of these drivers. Rasmussen has just outclassed them all at the moment.
Well, it certainly seems that way, and you'd hope to see maybe drivers starting to go through. Alex Simpson has another lap. He was on a 46.1, so he's 7/10 off and should be looking to expect more. Riley Preston as well, looking for lap times. Ricardo Orozco on his final lap, as is Freddie Rasmussen. So Rasmussen will look to try and extend that gap, go even quicker than a 45.4, and just completely blitzkrieg the field, it seems, at this stage. Into the right, into the left, out to that final chicane. Does Rasmussen improve his lap time on this final lap? It is. It's a 45.3. He just goes even quicker. It's just fantastic to see. It's almost like a ballet dancer, the way he's just effortless through all those corners. Now here comes a Roscoe Connery on his drive to the line. He wants a 1,000th to gain a position. Answer is 46 flat with just a 1,000th more, and that is good enough for the second row right now.
Great job from Ricardo Orozco, but even more fantastic one from Freddie Rasmussen. Just absolutely unbelievable qualifying pace. Just sets him apart so much from the rest of the field. We've still got a couple of drivers to set their final qualifying times. We've got Alex Simpson and Augie Montañez looking to get their final lap started. Victor Prieto heads his way across the line. Does he improve? And that one does not improve for him there, Jake.
No, it doesn't. Of course, we've got David Williams as well, looking to be on a lap time. He's the only driver so far not to set a lap time. And, well, Johnny, David Williams, he's going to be one of those drivers who will be looking to try and cement a top 10 position, but nothing secured yet.
No, nothing. Pressure's on now with the remaining time in this session. You're just going to try and set up the lap. You don't want to be put off your rhythm too much. Sometimes when you slow down to begin a lap, you just lose the rhythm. Sometimes I just like to begin a lap, don't care about the temperatures. Here you go into La Source, hit the braking spot, already missed that first apex, and that is a confidence dropper at a profuse rate, really, for the rest of this lap.
Yep, it really is. As we mentioned, David Williams, the only driver out there to not set a qualifying time, and he is just looking to do that as he heads his way down the Camel Straight now. DRS wide open for the VRS Coanda SimSport machine as he heads down on towards the brakes, in towards the Lecum. And in terms of those Sector 1 times, he is relatively decent on the sector times there. Would put him about just outside the top 10 in terms of the standings right now, if this trend continues here as he heads through No Name Corner. I think he's being a little bit too cautious here, Jake. I don't think he's extracting as much out of the car as he can. Looking through Pouon now.
I had a look at Riley Preston, and that was an aborted lap because he had to go straight on at the final chicane. It was looking good for him. It didn't work, but this is the issue David Williams has in the 3. The issue is he doesn't have any other laps after this. He won't have enough time to come across the line and complete. Alex Simpson has just completed his final lap. He moves up onto the second row, bumps Ricardo Orozco down, breaks the 46 barrier. David Williams has nothing left to give. He's got to be absolute greased lightning here in this second end half of the lap, this final stage of the lap, if you want, through Blanchimont. Fantastic. Looking for that final chicane, looking for any opportunity to gain positions. Ideally, he wants to be ahead of rivals like Oliveira, Spolstra, and Riley Preston. That's the sort of target he's aiming to put on himself. Over the line, 46.4. That's not good at all, behind all his rivals.
No, we'll put him P number 13. As again, as you said, not a very good result for Williams. We've still got Diego Oliveira to head his way across the line, down onto the brakes, into the bus stop now. And let's see what the number 5 driver can manage. P number 14 at the moment. Does he improve on the 146.5? It's a 146.1. Bumps him all the way up the timing board to the P number 7. Fantastic lap, Johnny.
Yep, good stuff. Good way to end the session. You want to do that, and they've really been close to last year's pole time. As we'll look at Eric Andre. Here he comes now across the line. Currently all the way down in P20, past the line. Improves, not his position though, only improves by a 10th there to a 47.2. So it's about to talk about Freddie Rasmussen's time, as he's currently on pole, and that's confirmed. He's matched Mac Backham's pole time from last year. Nobody else even close to that. So 36-degree track temps. You think these times will creep down a little lower, and brilliant time for Freddie Rasmussen. He's turned the tables on Michael Dinkel too, who's always been the one who's been on pole by about 0.6 of a second. Now it's turned the other way. It's Freddie Rasmussen this time around for Core Sim Racing.
Yeah, it really is, and we'll just take you through the full qualifying standings at the end here. It's going to be Freddie Rasmussen with that stonking lap of a 145.36 tenths of a second ahead of your next challenger of Apex Racing UK's Michael Dinkel. And then you've got Sebastian Job, Alex Simpson behind them. And you've also got the likes of Ricardo Orozco, Joshua Rogers languishing down in P number 5, P number 6. P number 7, Diego Oliveira. P number 8, Jorge Montanez. Then the top 10 is rounded out by Tommy Ostgaard and Riley Preston. Behind them, you've got Bobby Zelensky, Moritz Lohner, P number 11, P number 12. Boris Spotzer, David Williams will have to settle for 13 and 14. Michael Partinson, Zoran Jonjic, Tosh Thompson, Alex Bergeron will be the drivers directly behind them. And rounding out the rest of the qualifying grid, at least at the end of this particular session. Things may change for the race with the splitting and all of that. Victor Preto and Eric Andre, Kyle Germanton, Nicholas Rasmussen, Adam Tierney, and Istvan Ballo round out this split 1 of qualifying. We will just take a very, very, very quick commercial break, and we'll bring you the pre-race show in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
Red Bull GRCs are now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
Hello and welcome back to the pre-race show here for round number 7 of the iRacing Road Pro Series at Spa-Francorchamps. And well, Jake, I think the only thing that is in forefront of everyone's mind at the end of that qualifying session, Freddie Rasmussen, as I said in the chat, Freddie O'P's nerf, his lap.
That was a fantastic lap. There's nothing more I can say. Just watch it. This is class.
Absolute classes. Let's just sit here and just watch in awe of Freddie's lap here. This is something that is basically very, very fitting to be in that World Championship Grand Prix Series. Let's just that lap is just a thing of beauty, and there's not much more that Freddie really could have done to extract more pace out of that car. As we were just noting the weird engine sounds that are coming through No Name Corner. Fairly strange, but it did just work for him, Johnny. It's just impressive. I don't have any other words for it, really.
He nailed the lap. Setup looks good as well. Now it's just about whether you put fuel in that car and whether it does the same thing during the race and with tire wear as well, because these cars react differently when you go to the race. You know, we've seen that. I don't want to keep bringing up the German, but we saw that what happened to Michael Dinkel the last few rounds. He's been so quick in qualifying and he hasn't shown up in the race. So Freddie Rasmussen's a different driver, of course. He's one of the top sim racers in the world. And we'll see if this race pace translates to the race. Sometimes as well, with this long break between rounds, you'll see different drivers climb up on top of the timing sheets just because they're better when you have extra time to test. You know, they're more relaxed. They're not pushing themselves as much, and there's less pressure on them too.
It is, as we will just go through the current championship standings right now. Joshua Rogers will be at top of the boards there with 1,542 points over. And then you've got Freddie Rasmussen there, P number 2 currently, even with that dropped round that he has that he did not attend at Suzuka. Then you've got Alex Simpson, Tommy Ostgaard, Sebastian Job all rounding out the top 5. Then for the final 5 positions that get yourself a World Championship Grand Prix license, David Williams, Moritz Lohner, Michael Dinkel, Zoran Jonjic, and Ricardo Orozco. But Jake, this is the point in the season where things get very, very interesting, because from this round forward, all the way to round 10, the finale of the season, you do not have any drop weeks to play with. So one mistake can put you so far down that board.
Consistency is the biggest key when it comes to racing like this, and that arguably has to be seen from drivers like Josh Rogers, who has been not necessarily the quickest every round. Yes, he's got 2 wins, but he has been up there, podiums, top 5s, consistently there. Alex Simpson, another driver that comes to mind. And you talk about the small margins that this race has. If you look from 2nd in qualifying all the way back to 6th, they are split by less than 1/10 of a second. And that just proves to you how close it is from 2nd onwards. Yes, it's very good for Rasmussen right now, but Rasmussen can't take liberties. I hark back to the iRacing Grand Prix series about 6 months ago from Spa-Francorchamps. Freddie Rasmussen out-qualified Jamie Fluke of Apex Racing UK. Lap 2, he was in the wall at Eau Rouge Radion.
Yeah, and there's a good amount of cars all within 1/10, all at the top of that qualifying board at the moment. 5 cars I count within 1/10 of a second. And Johnny, again, coming back to this sort of point situation, we were talking about this before qualifying started. Everyone from Tommy Ostgaard downwards, inside of that top 10, they have to be so careful in these final 4 rounds because, you know, one DNF drops them outside of that top 10, or basically gets them very close to dropping outside of that top 10. So those guys, they just need to get these cars to the finish with no contact, and they could basically be through at this point.
And it's not easy at Spa because there's a lot of calamity at this race sometimes because of the high chance of overtaking at this circuit and just the fact that drivers can collide, especially into turn 1 at La Source. When the corner bottlenecks like that, and not many drivers will take to the runoff. They're all trying to fight for those extra few positions that could gain them crucial points. You do see some weird contact at the start. Now, these are professionals in terms of the sim racing universe, and we're not expecting that, but we have seen it at the top level in the World Championship here too in previous races. So these guys really need to be key at the start. They really need to, you know what they need to do? Not be safe into turn 1. They're all going to do that, but they all need to just really push as hard as they can, and I think not think about it twice. Don't second guess any move you make into the first corner.
Well, you know, sort of when you come on to the topic of the track here, Jake, you've got the big factor here, which is the elevation changes at this track, one of the most extreme on the entire calendar. We discussed it during the Blancpain Sprint Series on RaceSpot Primetime, RaceSpot Friday Primetime, of course, and it's just a fantastic view, especially in real life, from the top of Lecombe all the way down to the bottom end of the track. It doesn't really give you much of a sense of the elevation change when you watch it from the TV cameras, but if you go there in person, it is basically just hiking up all the track.
It is, and when you look at exactly what's going on, especially when you talk about Eau Rouge as one of those big corners, you go the left, uphill into the right, and then uphill through Radion into the left. It's about maximizing your run. It's a momentum-based track at times, especially when you get a good run out of Eau Rouge and Radion. You use that, you kick to head up the Kemmel straight. It's uphill incline, and when you have DRS, you're using a lot less energy, a lot less effort than anything else. So in fact, you get your DRS even more of a boost because of the fact that it is a greater hole you're punching through the air, because you're having to go uphill, dealing with gravity as well on your side to deal with. But it's about this circuit just trying to be very difficult. Some circuits do very well without any elevation change. Circuits like Silverstone come into mind, but when you have elevation change like this, when you know that you have a circuit that can really test a vehicle's limits by just how much grip that you need to have, especially when you're coming off camber in certain corners, especially when you're having yourself a lot of elevation change, you know, it takes a very special driver to make this lap absolutely perfect. It takes a very special driver to get 44 laps of this perfect.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned Eau Rouge there, because, Johnny, one of the main overtaking opportunities on this track is using the DRS, coming down in towards Lecombe, coming down the Kemmel Straight, of course. But to set up for that pass, you really do need a fantastic run coming out of the Eau Rouge Radion section. And as a driver, how would you go about doing that? I know it's all about nailing apexes, trying to get the traction down, but, you know, sort of, you know, you can't... Doing that is a whole different ballgame than just trying to suggest it.
We need to put other drivers offline too, especially heading into La Source. That can set up a move all the way down into Lecombe, so after the Kemmel Straight. But your real overtaking spots, as you say, are into turn 1 in La Source. You got DRS to help aid you there as well. That's on the main pit straight. No DRS on the Ronto Rouge, otherwise we'd see a whole lot of drivers into the trees up the hill there. So we enable the DRS, obviously, of course, after Radalon and Rouge onto the Kemmel Straight. And that is probably your best overtaking spot here today, heading into Les Combes. And if you don't get it done there, you probably, unless you're brave enough to do it in that middle sector, you really have to wait all the way to the final chicane. So over this long 7-kilometer circuit, you really have to nail those passes quickly. Otherwise, if you've qualified down the back of the order, like some of these drivers outside the top 10, for example, David Williams, those moves need to be made up at the start. You don't want to be picking off drivers one by one during the race. Even though it's easy, it still wastes a lot of time.
Could be a fairly tense start, as we will just go for a quick commercial break here. Race session's about to go up, and this is one you definitely do want to miss, the first non-drop week of the season. We'll see you guys there.
Red Bull GRCs are now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
The yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now. We're done. Get going.
It is race time here at Spa-Francorchamps, round number 7 of the iRacing Road Pro qualifying series. Drivers just out there just doing their warm-up right now. The track has changed quite a bit. The weather has changed quite a bit from the qualifying session you just saw. Right now it is mostly cloudy with a fairly lukewarm track temperature of 79 degrees Fahrenheit there out there on circuit, so quite a bit colder than your qualifying session. Let's just see how that one factors in terms of this race. Just means that there might be a little bit less tire wear to be worried about for these drivers as they get themselves through this 44 lap event. But as we're coming towards the end of practice here, Jake, that weather could play a big factor here.
It could, and the fact that the circuit has really dialed down in terms of what is its temperature, it's going to mean that this circuit is very much more oversteery for vehicles. It's going to be a very difficult circuit in terms of trying to keep it on the island, and those drivers who really push for it at that high level at the front of that field, they know they are in for a scrap today.
Yeah, we will be absolutely in for a scrap, especially with that short run down towards turn number 1. We'll go through our qualifying grid for round number 7. Freddie Rasmussen getting that pole position again with that absolutely amazing lap time in qualifying. We've got Michael Dinkel joining him on the front row there. Sebastian Job and Alex Simpson will consist of row number 2. Ricardo Orozco and Joshua Rogers, row number 3. Diego Oliveira, Jorge Montanez, and Tommy Osgaard and Riley Preston will round out your top 10, first 5 rows on the grid here. Then just outside the top 10, you've got Bobby Zelensky, Moritz Lohner as well, getting himself up in towards that position of P number 12. Boris Spolstra, David Williams will be P number 13, P14. Carl Winkler, Michael Partington, Zoran Jonjic, and Josh Thompson will bring things all the way down to P number 18. Then the 10th row on the grid will consist of Alex Bergeron and Victor Preto. And behind them, you got the drivers at the back of the grid, the likes of Eric Andre, Thomas Boucher, Carl Germanton, Evan Lathoris will bring things down to P number 24. Nicholas Rasmussen, P number 25. The other Rasmussen, basically almost a Rasmussen sandwich here in this entire field, as Adam Tierney will get himself P number 26. Istvan Ballo, Matteo Calistani will be P number 28. Aurelian Talmon and Michel Rishi will be rounding out this grid here. 30-car grid for this race. And the engines will already start to rev. What will round number 7 hold here at Spa-Francorchamps? Fantastic start for Alex Simpson from the second row. Here comes Sebastian Job, potentially making it 3 right down the middle. Down into a source 3 wide for P number 3. It's going to be. The drivers will head their way through there just fine. Battling between Alex Simpson and Ricardo Orozco, though, heading down towards Eau Rouge for the first time. Who's going to back out of this one? I think Simpson's going to have to back out as he heads his way through there. Catastrophic loss of momentum through the apexes, though, could put him under threat from Rogers. But no, he gets a fantastic run through those corners. Orozco so slow off of Eau Rouge. Alex Simpson makes his way by. Sebastian Job will make the move into P number 2 as well. Past Michael Dinkel. Corsim Racing P number 1, P number 2. Still fighting behind Diego Oliveira, Tommy Osgaard, ending their way through Malmedina as Osgaard tracks out a bit too much there into the side of Diego Oliveira. Brings him back into the clutches of Moritz Lohner down towards the inside of Rivage as well. Battling behind between Montanez and Preston that we also have to look at here, as it's a frantic start, Jake, as Zelensky makes a move as well.
Yeah, and you can see now Riley Preston wants to come back at the driver of Montañez into the double left to Pouon, and he'll get the position. Thank you very and much. That was as easy as you like, but big surprises then as Core go 1 and 2. For the first time probably this season, they've had a perfect start for both of their vehicles, and now they finally have that opportunity to get the results they want. Still the battling Orozco looking at this one Zelensky. Because Tommy Osgaard and Zelensky having issues.
Yeah, Zelensky around coming out to the Fang, yeah, and that was contact, I believe, with... No, oh, yeah, it was a little bit of contact with Boris Sprolstra there as Zelensky got his own slide on and just took it into driver there. As there's another slow car out there on circuit, Cal Germanton in the number 26 machine. As actually after that incident we just saw, there was a huge one with David Williams. David Williams now potentially out of this event as he spins in the middle of traffic coming down in towards the first Stavilo, and that was because, oh, that looks very, very naughty there from Josh Thompson, a little bit unsighted with the VRS car and the SimSport car as we tried to get a replay of that one, but that was a little bit of calamity there, Johnny.
Yeah, that was a silly move by Josh, so just need to be spatially aware. The initial start was good for most drivers, but that was a poor showing of racecraft and awareness there by Josh. But unfortunately, Williams' race is over. Battles continue up in front. Tommy Osgard close to Josh Rogers at the end of the Kemmel Straight. I always love the start there, the short run to La Source, and then the screaming down to this section into Les Combes where all the leaders are passing through now. So it's important for Sebastian Job there to get close to his teammate because he was so quick in qualifying. He's within 7/10 and he's still within DRS range in the early laps.
Yeah, of course, DRS not active, at least in the first 3 laps of this event, so he has to stick within that 1 second mark if he's going to benefit at all from any DRS over his teammate. He's already pulled a substantial gap of almost already a second to Michael Dinkle, so Dinkle has to be so careful here. He might drop out of DRS before DRS even becomes a factor in this entire race, but battle still on for P number 4. Alex Simpson, Ricardo Orozco, Joshua Rogers, and Tommy Ostgaard also potentially challenging for this particular position as they head their way through the second Stavilo there. Of course, Ricardo Orozco only having the draft to try and help him bring himself back up towards that Apex Racing UK car as they head their way through Blanchimont now. And Rogers also not going to be close enough to behind to make a move at all. But move behind, though, this is Riley Preston in the number 7 around the outside of Moritz Lohner coming down into the bus stop. That move can work as long as you get the apex, the inside line for the second apex. And that is not what happened there, Jake.
No, it wasn't, and Riley Preston will feel very unfortunate that he didn't manage to stick a nose down the inside of the second part of the bus stop chicane. And Riley Preston has to be incredibly careful. 11th in the championship, has seen David Williams drop out of this race, will be in a top 10 position if things remain the way they do. But it's got to be now looking further forward because Josh Rogers is going to get the run. DRS active on this 3rd lap. Ricardo Orozco having to go defensive. He uses up all the ERS available and has to back out of it, lose the position. Josh Rogers now starting to make moves here. Looking for P4, looking for Alex Simpson, looking for automatic qualification.
Yep, he is. Of course, Joshua Rogers not going to be attending 2 of the final 4 rounds of this season, so he needs the good points finishes here to secure himself inside that top 10. He has a good points buffer already at the top of those standings, but not entirely safe for the moment with these 4 rounds to go. So he has to get himself vaguely towards the front of this field. A podium finish would be absolutely brilliant for him, considering his P number 6 qualifying spot. But to get himself into P number 4, he has to get himself past the Apex Racing UK team boss of Alex Simpson. As looking further down the field, in fact, down towards outside the top 20, in fact. This is Adam Tierney and Michelle Ritchie battling their way through the Lafania chicane into the Stabilos now. And Tierney is going to be the one coming out on top for Radicals Online there, Johnny.
You're coming through Curb Paul Frere, which is not an easy corner. You think it's full throttle, but sometimes the rear end will snap away from you if that car is not set up well. Here they come through the beautiful Blanchimont. And Ritchie's got a chance here, but just that dirty air that plays an ever frustrating effect on you, obviously in a bad way. And they come through the final corner to begin another lap. This is where you can enable DRS again for, I don't know if it's the first or second time. Technically it's the second time in the lap because you do it before you cross the line. But that 97 meters of elevation change here, Connery, makes visibility as well tough. A lot of it comes through this section in Eau Rouge, but you know, all the disarray that happened in the early laps, which was so disappointing, happened in a section of the racetrack where it shouldn't have. So these guys now battling for these final few positions will keep on passing, keep on doing away.
Spoelstra's off at the Lacombe chicane though, and that was embroiled in a battle with Josh Thompson there, as he just didn't get that car slowed down enough coming through into the braking zone there. Had to take it onto the grass. In fact, he's on the gravel again coming down into Rivage. So a horrible couple of corners here for the Evolution Racing team driver, and believe me, there are many of them, but Spoelstra having an absolute mare of one at the moment, Jake.
Yeah, he is. He's struggling, but not in comparison to his teammate Riley Preston, who got through on the driver of Moritz Lohner and did so very, very well to pull himself up into 9th position in his race, now on the back of the train, which now stems to Alex Simpson. And you can see now just how close Josh Rogers is. He's desperate to make this move. He has been all over the rear of Simpson all lap long as they make the run to Blanchimont. It takes a brave man to make this move, but not close enough there, as there was a small save of ERS and a little track wide from the driver of Josh Rogers. He'll sit, he'll wait, and he'll wait for the prime overtaking opportunity of the Kemmel.
Yep, he will. Slightly different lines taken there through the bus stop chicane. Alex Simpson going a little bit deep on the brakes as Josh Rogers will decide to save a little bit. ERS coming down in towards that source. Charge up those batteries for the run out of this corner, and potentially a DRS overstake coming down towards the Kemmel straight now. As heading through Eau Rouge they will go. Josh Rogers still harvesting that ERS all the way down towards there, but look at the run he gets through the corner. Even though he has the dirty air effect messing with his front wing, he's still going to have this opportunity, still going to have the DRS wide open, still going to make it side by side down in towards the Lacombe chicane, and Joshua Rogers put him up one position. He's up into P number 4, Johnny. Just a textbook move.
He looks confident through the Eau Rouge section, so that's where you want to well, obviously be confident, of course, to make some moves. So that car looks stable. Good move from Josh.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic move as Victor Prato. Oh, there's been a big incident here with the number 25 machine, and he got completely just rear-ended by Evan Lathoris there in number 29. Spun both cars, especially Evan Lathoris, in towards the middle of the track. Drivers behind just had to completely, well, one of them just had to completely just cancel the Lacombe chicane there. That was Aurelian Talmon having to take the escape road, not feeling confident enough to take the normal racing line and not get hit there, but that was very, very strange, Jake.
It was, and Aurelian Talmon as a driver has been involved in more opening lap incidents that you can shake a stick at, and probably trying to get out of the way to just try and finish an event overall, but not a brilliant move, you could definitely say. Evan Lathoris was very late on the brakes, too late I think was the right wordage to be seeing, and well, it's going to be about now how you recover and hope that you don't have the rest mist try and descend upon you. But right now, I tell you what is happening. Rasmussen and Job aren't breaking away from each other. Sebastian Job's very comfortable, sitting within that 1 second window, having the DRS down every single straight, and that means that he is just there and he's looking to pounce on when Rasmussen may make a mistake, but I think we got ourselves a very good scrap on our hands.
Yeah, the gaps aren't fluctuating that much, but what both of them are doing is just pulling away from Michael Dinkel and Rogers. They're the only drivers in the entire field lapping in the 148s right now. Everyone else is either in the 149s or in the 150 mark. So these Corsim racing cars have really got something down. 1.5 seconds in the last 2 laps. They have extended the gap, and you couldn't really ask for a much better start, Johnny.
That's exactly what they need to do. It eases the pressure off heading into that pit window, which will open around about lap 15 onwards. So a bit of one-stop race as always here in the McLaren. And Michael Dinkel's trailing behind, but I think he'll claim some points that he needs to get himself into the World Championship, and that's really all he cares about this race.
Yeah, that is pretty much all he cares about, as he is being caught right now by Joshua Rogers. 0.4 of a second went the Australian's way that last time by, and Josh Rogers, we can definitely know he can pull these race wins out of the bag, but with the pace of those Corsim racing cars, that would be a very difficult mountain to try to summit, but he can potentially catch and pass Dinkel with the way his pace is at this moment in time. Behind, though, here comes Riley Preston in number 7, has the overspeed over Tommy Osgood, side by side coming out to Blanchimont. This Max Verstappen move around the outside for Riley Preston, almost shades of Max Verstappen there, almost exactly what happened with him. And Riley Preston might as well get your Dutch citizenship now.
That was fantastic. He pretty much took a Tommy gun to Tommy Ostgaard and said, well, here you go, try and defend yourself against this. That was stunning from Riley Preston. Proof of his class, proof why he was a WCS driver last season. And this is the drive, the fight and resolve that has been needed from Riley Preston for a long time coming. Orozco's next.
Yeah, Riley Preston really does need these good race results right now because he is just on the borderline of being inside, outside of that top 10 in the point standings. He needs no more non-finishes for the rest of the season to have any chance. Past the front of him, though, this is Ricardo Orozco in the number 6. And actually, Alex Simpson, he has to completely abort the apex there, as Orozco has another chance coming into Malmedy, but that's going to be a slowdown penalty for Alex Simpson, as Orozco now getting challenged by Riley Preston. Riley Preston looking to make the pass here. Is Tommy Ostgaard behind, hits Riley Preston. Another bit of contact for Riley Preston this season, and no, that is going to be dropping him back just a little bit. Has to be careful about the suspension damage, as that tracking does look a little bit out of whack on that car, as we just did have a flurry of activity there, Johnny. Replay.
Oh, and while that happened, Preston's lost another position. He almost lost it at a pull on, but the replay with Simpson just had nowhere to go and decided to play the cautious game. And again, more disarray through a section of the racetrack where it's just so tight and errors are really easy to come by. They all continue unscathed except for Riley Preston, of course, who, wow, you talked about him possibly having some steering issues. The fact that he almost lost it at a pull on saved that car. I'd be really nervous in that cockpit right now in that ERT McLaren.
Yeah, very, very nervous indeed, as Alex Simpson still ahead of Ricardo Orozco. So even though he abused the track limits coming through Lacombe, the slowdown penalty wasn't enough to put him back behind the Ricardo Orozco, because Orozco was just so concerned with Riley Preston there. So that is the state of things right now. Orozco has to be fired up because of that. He should have had that position. Alex Simpson should theoretically have given him the position in that sort of situation. But right now, that's just not what has happened, Jake.
No, it's not, and you can see Alex Simpson now trying desperately to break away. Orozco had the chance, but the chance went to begging, and well, it's going to be one of those races, I think, that you've got to put yourself into position. Here comes Lona then to the inside of the driver, Diogo Oliveira, the ERT driver, and he makes that one look comfortable. Switchback attempt then as they now head to Malmedy. This right-hand corner, not going to happen here at the moment for Diogo Oliveira. A good run, could have had left the opportunity to Ravage and then Speaker's corner, not going to happen. So Diogo Oliveira, -1, but he's just got to be careful. He's got a very pent-up and aggressive teammate now behind him, Riley Preston. I'd get out of the way if I was him.
Yeah, I definitely would do so, as trouble with the number 19 machine coming off the top of Eau Rouge Radion. Oh my word, that is a very, very scary instant. Not as big of an impact, but having a spin like that coming off the top of what is a very, very dangerous section. And I think Enric Andre is going to need a new pair of pants after that one. Johnny.
Yeah, something, I don't know what happened there. That's just a very, very odd incident. So the curb there had something to play, but he's out of the race, of course. Enric Andre, he's still in a bit of a learning curve for him. So this car's not easy to drive. You can't just jump in it and automatically be Fredrik Rasmussen up in the lead by 0.7 of a second over his teammate. You do have to put in a lot of practice, a lot of time. Setup is also a factor that comes into play as well. But I want that battle from P5 down to, I mean, now it's gone all the way down to Michael Partington too. That's starting to heat up quite a bit now, and so let's see if Tommy Ostgaard has any front wing damage from clipping. Who did he clip again over there at the
Preston.
It was Preston, wasn't it, on the inside of the corner? That was an optimistic move, but let's see if he's got any front wing damage from that. I don't think so.
And I don't think the damage to Riley Preston's car is as serious as we first thought. He's still holding position here in P number 9 as it is right now. In fact, made the pass over his teammate of Diogo Oliveira just not too long ago. So there is still some pace left in that Evolution Racing team car. Ostgaard does have front wing damage. You can see that quite obviously. Driver's left-hand side. As actually, behind there goes Oliveira, I believe. And Oliveira, what has happened to him? Oh, he's come off of Malmedy a little bit too much there. It is through the apex of the corner. Hit the curb a bit too much, sorry. Spun towards the exit curb, tried to hold that car. In fact, doesn't hit the barrier, I believe. Or there was a very, very light tap with the rear right tire there, Jake. But so close to ending Oliveira's race there.
well, he lost it before he even got onto the outside curb. That's how much Oliveira was pushing, and that has dropped him back 2 more positions off the train of Montañez and teammate Partington. But I was looking at Riley Preston. I'm pretty sure he does have damage because he is soaring at that wheel down the straights. He is struggling to keep that vehicle in a straight line pointed. This is a testament to how he's driving. Again, another little wiggle behind Moritz Lohner. Riley Preston is having to work harder than anybody else in this field to get inside that top 10 for qualification.
Yeah, he does, and if he finishes where he is right now, that would be a vaguely good result considering the trials and tribulations that he has gone through in this race right now. And, well, he's doing his best impression of multiple Formula 1 drivers. He did not Max Verstappen pass on around the outside of Blanchimont. Has to do his best Sebastian Vettel impression with dealing with steering damage now as well. So the Australian driver, as I said, running pretty well in terms of his lap times. 149.9. That is actually faster than Moritz Lohner ahead of him, and will get the DRS this time. But will Moritz Lohner get the DRS off the driver ahead of him? Yes, he will. So those DRSs will cancel out. But Preston has the ERS, the overspeed and the slipstream coming down in towards the Lecombe chicane. Even with a damaged car, he's not afraid to go for these moves, Johnny.
You can tell he's practiced that. Moritz Lohner I'm talking about, the defensive move there. That was brilliant, but Riley Preston has the better line heading into the downhill turn number 10, and Lohner's been solid here on the defense here of P8. They go through No Name, the left-hander, fairly simple, but Riley Preston, as long as that damage doesn't affect his straight line speed, you can get away with it. I feel sorry for Tommy Osgaard, who may actually be lacking some straight line speed, or maybe he's just out of DRS zone, but he's definitely not gaining any time, at least after the incident. So if Riley Preston has steering damage, you can overcome it. Just have to adjust your driving style. If it's straight line speed, you can't change that at all. No help or no adjustment in driving style or skill will help you with that at all.
No, it won't, as that front wing damage is definitely going to be hurting the Norwegian driver at this moment in time, especially coming through these high downforce corners like Blanchimont, coming through also Pouon as well. And that's definitely not going to help him, Jake, as Preston has potential run down into bus stop here, but no, he's just too far back to be able to do anything about the Huizenfeld Core Motorsports driver ahead of him. Slight slide through the first apex, but manages to hold it together. But Preston's just been doing a fantastic job here with the damage. I don't think I've seen anyone drive better with damage to their machine.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what Riley Preston has been trying to sort out. Bit wide though through that opening section, won't have a chance, allowing Montañez maybe to get back into a whiff of DRS. But this race not over at the front. Sebastian Job again keeping that vehicle within 0.6 of a second. I think both of them, Rasmussen and Job, understand the situation. They're pulling away from everybody else in the field. They have no reason to battle right now. They'll wait to pit stops. If someone makes a mistake, they'll take the lead. But right now, when only top 10 really matters, I think both of them are taking a 1-2 here today.
Ooh, the 16 of Partington slowed through Lecombe there, as that was an attempted pass over the positive sim racing driver Jorge Montañez. But was there a little bit of contact there? Maybe debatable there between Montañez and Partington, but Partington definitely the one that lost out the most in terms of that particular battle. And these are the crucial battles, Johnny, because these are the battles that just try to get you inside of that top 10 mark, and inside the top 10 in the standings is where you need to be to get your license for the World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, and Partington's only scored 67 points in the past 2 rounds, so definitely not what he needs on his charge to a World Championship license. I definitely think, now here, I'm not going to name a top 10, but I do think Michael Partington is in the top 10 in terms of talent out here in the field. He's 15th in the standings, though, and so you don't always get what you deserve. Sometimes you have to really push your luck a little bit. As Ricardo Orozco gets closer and closer, Alex Simpson here goes through the final chicane yet another time. I think for Ricardo here, he just has to make sure he doesn't take such a tight line into La Source. A lot of drivers here following closely. They take a tight line into this corner. They don't get a good run out of here. Ricardo does it not perfect, but not terrible. And I think he won't make a move on Alex Simpson this time around, but he will get slightly closer with DRS up Eau Rouge.
Sebastian Job in the pits. That is very, very early damage to the front end of the number 2 driver. Is this yet another incident for Sebastian Job? It is, coming off the top of Eau Rouge Radial. Heavy impact with the tire barriers. Yet another mistake this season for Sebastian Job, and that puts his license chance in jeopardy now. He has to fight for the final 3 rounds of this season to hold on to that World Championship license spot, Jake. Absolutely unbelievable.
And I'm not surprised by it, because he was pushing hard against Rasmussen. He wanted to stay within 1 second. The vehicle snapped on him, hit the curb at Radion. It snapped left, it snapped right, and it was a massive, massive bit of contact that he had to negotiate with. And for Sebastian Job, this could be a 2nd straight season that he fails to make it through qualification, and that will be the biggest shock of 2018 by a long shot.
Absolutely unbelievable, and Sebastian Job now has his work cut out in the final rounds of this season to hold on to that license. This is not what he wanted. He only needed to get that car to the end. I'm not sure why he was pushing so much to try and catch his teammate. He was P number 2. P number 2 is very good. He can get P number 2s all the way to the end of the season, and he will be fine. But now he has to get P number 1, P number 2s towards the end of this season now to have any chance of getting that World Championship Grand Prix license, and especially in a round like this where you cannot drop this week. That is going to be an absolute detriment to his season, as now just the tables have turned now. Another driver could potentially get themselves in towards that top 10 position, the likes of course, Riley Preston. You've also got the likes of Oscar Roscoe. You've also got Montanez that potentially get themselves in there as well. That could be free up one more slot to be challenged inside the top 10 in the standings, as Alex Bergeron, I believe, potentially having a couple of issues. Yeah, he is down on towards the lane, but what has happened to the young Canadian there, Johnny?
Not sure. It's an early stop here. You might be pushing for an early one-stop strategy to undercut people. I'm never a fan of the undercut, though, because if you do end up passing people, you're so much slower for that 2nd stint that it's just so easy to get back past you. So at a track like this, the undercut's not really as valuable as other places, but man, for Sebastian Job, he hit that curb again, the same one that Enric Andre clip that Alex Bergeron's coming through now, and Alex Bergeron obviously cleaning away. Good stuff from him. But for Sebastian Job, like, if he's going to make a run in the World Championship, and if he, because we know he is championship material in the future, he can't be making unforced errors like that. To me, I think he's just got to reset his game, make sure he doesn't make errors like that in the future. And that's what separates the world's best sim racers from the ones who have all the potential but just never seem to use it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking, Jake, is Sebastian Job, he has all the pace in the world, but you can have all the pace in the world, but as Johnny quite rightfully says, if you make mistakes like that on much more than one occasion, we've seen it multiple times throughout the series. We saw it, especially at Silverstone with the unforced errors that he made twice in a row. It's just absolutely unacceptable, and as a result, he might not even make the top 10. He's going to have to race for it this time.
He will have to race for it, but the story of this race is not completely all about Sebastian Job. Everyone else still has to capitalize on the situation, the door that has been opened by Sebastian Job. Simpson versus Orozco. Orozco's been close, but every time he's been close, he's not had this run to make it up the Kemmel. And then when he gets to this middle part of the section, he's not using the vehicle the way he likes. I think he set that vehicle up for top and straight line speed. I don't think that Ricardo Orozco's really set this one up for the mid-section of this lap, which he is starting to falter on a little bit.
Yeah, he is, and just looking at those sector times, it does look like he's fine through the first couple of corners, the first couple of sectors, but through the sort of middle and last sectors, he's losing a lot of time, especially through the bus stop chicane. That's where Simpson can just use that low speed traction that those Apex Racing UK, that Apex Racing UK car has through that corner complex, and get the run off in towards La Source. But heading through the first few Stavelos now, a couple of scrappy corners for these drivers. as Ricardo Roscoe looking to get the run out of the second Stavolo, looking to get the run through towards Blanchimont and into the bus stop as well. Again, I think he's just a little bit too far back here in this situation. In fact, he might also as well agree as the harvesting the ERS coming through the Blanchimont there, down onto the brakes in towards the bus stop. Still no opportunity for the Brazilian driver to head his way by. In terms of other battles out there on circuit, though, there's also Tommy Ostgaard, Moritz Lohner, Riley Preston as well, still trying to wheel that car around. I'm so impressed that he's still holding on to what is P number 8 now with the loss of Sebastian Job. And again, he's still running very, very competitive lap times out there, albeit a couple of tenths of a second off the pace, but it's not too much of an issue with the suspension damage that he has, Johnny. And in terms of the rest of the field, you've also got close battle potentially between Matthias and Partington starting to come alive as well. So heading towards the end of this first stint, who are you watching?
I'm watching the battle now in front between Lochner and Oscar. They're very close between each other there. Lochner almost got past. He's solid, Moritz Lochner. He has impressed me today. And if I was a team owner, I might even just make my own team and sign Moritz Lochner to a 10-year, $100 million contract like that Oakland Raiders coach. And the good news is, by the way, Connery, the pit window's open. Lap 15. Let's do it. Who's going to come in first? I doubt it's going to be Freddie Rasmussen, but who's going to pounce behind?
Yeah, exactly. Freddie Rasmussen has basically the hand that beats all at this moment in time. 10.6 second gap over the rest of the field. With 15 laps going to complete this next time by, he can basically just not worry about any undercuts at this stage. He can just reply to them all and not have to worry about anyone behind him as long as he keeps that car on the grey stuff, unlike his teammate, shall we say. But Moritz Lohner, I'm having a look at right now, the number 4 machine. Good run over Ostgaard coming down into the bus stop. Early middle of the line taken there for Ostgaard. Just a little bit scared of the Huizenfeld Core Motorsports driver behind him. And Lohner now in a very, very good position to capitalize on that little bit of overcautiousness, Jake.
Yes, and that overcautiousness really does sometimes pay dividends if you can just make the right moment. And this is the closest I think Moritz Lohner has been for a very long time in this event. Lap 16, just before the pit stop window, just in the pit stop window, you could definitely argue. Up the hill, better run though from Ostgaard, who was using his ERS a lot more than Moritz Lohner was. And when they get onto this straight, it means that Moritz has nothing in response to argue with. But look at the closing speed he gets. He thinks about going to the inside, but was just not decisive enough to make that move. And I think that if he wanted to there in that situation, Connery, he could have thrown half a nose in and maybe expected side by side.
He could have well expected that, as Lohner has been a very consistent runner in this series. Johnny, he got himself up in towards the podium positions at the start of the Monza race thanks to a blistering pace off the line. But in terms of the rest of his races, he just hasn't really had much trouble, got those consistent finishes, and as a result, he is firmly inside that top 10.
He's done well. He's impressed, as I said before. Deserves that big contract, but I think through Les Combes there, that's the second time that's happened with Ostgaard, where he's tested him out. Ostgaard will trail brake into the corner, and you know what? You don't want to risk those points, as you're saying, Connery. He's in the top 10, as you mentioned. I think this is where he's the fastest on the racetrack, and Ostgaard's made a mistake here. So he's going to lose speed through Blanchimont where the dirty air comes up. But with Ostgaard's mistake, that'll certainly put him off balance. And Moritz Lochner's got a good chance here. Throw it up the inside. No, don't listen to me, because that would have been very silly. He's got a good run here out of the final chicane.
Yep, let's not throw it down the inside like Jonathan Simone says. But Lohner, again, not going to have the opportunity down in towards last source. Very good run off the corner for the Norwegian, as you've also got Riley Preston behind, and, well, he's caught 0.2 of a second that last lap. Battling behind, though, there's Montanes and Partington having a little bit of an altercation through turn number 1. Pushed wide did Montanes, and that was a result of the, well, the entry oversteer there. That's a huge amount of entry oversteer down in towards last source. Has to push all the way wide on to the large amount of runoff on the exit of that source there, Jake. And again, just another small mistake from Montanes loses him the position.
Yes, it does. And, well, Jorge Montañez will work hard to get that back. Both himself and Partington outside the top 10 in the championship, needing these points. And, again, big missed apex as he heads through Rivage. And that will mean Montañez will drop back 0.3 of a second. Keep your eye, though, on the 12 of Zoran Jonjic, though, because Jonjic has not had the best qualifying. Started 17th. He's +4. He's got Carl Winkler in front, who's having a very good run in the number 30 machine. Just goes to prove just how good of a drive Carl Winkler is having. But Zoran Jonjic right now, he needs to start making positions. He's not safe in this championship in P8. I could definitely see Riley Preston jumping him if he's not careful. If he needs to get more positions, he's got to start doing it right now.
Yeah, all three of the core sim racing drivers all were running very, very well, and Carl Winkler makes that one obvious. Of course, he was sort of second half of the field in the races that we saw him in this top split. Of course, in the beginning of the season, he was down in that second split, battling things out. But Johnny, have core sim racing worked something out with the setup here? Because all of their cars seem very, very quick.
Well, Spa's a different circuit in itself, so sometimes something might work at this circuit that won't work at others. I mean, you do need to have low drag and straight line speed. Let's look at Moritz Lochner here. He's very close heading into the source. You'll need all the low drag and straight line speed coming out of this corner. Lots of retraction too, but this is where visibility will be difficult when you're in the cockpit here looking uphill on Tommy Osgaard. Don't want to make a mistake like Sebastian Job did. Fairly simple for the two. Here's Moritz Lochner's best chance at P6.
Battle for P number 6 on driver's right-hand side. It has to be, as that position will be very easy for Luna, as Preston senses an opportunity there, coming down into Lecombe chicane, and Osgaard basically mistiming things with the ERS. As actually he pushes wide there, and Preston instantly down towards the inside. Osgaard loses 2 positions in just a couple of corners there, and that is absolutely fatal when mistakes start to pile up like that. It just means that you lose yet more positions out there on circuit, and Osgaard is going to be now down towards down the field somewhat in P number 8, where he was P number 6 just a couple of seconds ago, Jake.
I wonder if he's let that back after the incident he had earlier on in this race, because there was nothing untowards with the mistake, nothing happened with the vehicle. Tommy Osgaard just forgot to turn for the corner, and you think about what happened with Riley Preston earlier on, the fact that Osgaard made the move, and Osgaard, a very nice driver, one of the most respectable drivers, I think, in the field. I think he's actually let that position back in a sense of fair play and fair sportsmanship.
And you have a counterpoint there, John.
I feel like he got beached on the curb, possibly. I might be wrong, though. I'm not in the car, so it looked that way, though. Either that, or I don't think he's had a slowdown either. That would be weird, because he didn't really go off track as Lochner comes into the pits. And someone else in front of him as well is Alex Simpson. So the first 2 of the leaders to pounce. And this is a very short pit lane just because you skip turn 1 as well. So let's see where they feed out.
Yeah, lap number 19, or end of lap number 18 into 19 is going to be when these drivers start to get themselves down on towards the lane, and Simpson, Lohner, Carl Winkler as well joining them down to get their one and only service of the day here. And they will get themselves off the way. Victor Preto also down on towards the lane. Everyone else out there on circuit stays out at least 1 more lap. And I think we can expect your leader, Freddie Rasmussen, to go quite long on this stint, in fact, since he just has to not worry. He's got 11.6 seconds over the next driver. He can just take it very leisurely to the end here, Jake.
He can, and he can't afford complacency, though, if he does decide to do that, because the race isn't over, despite the fact he's got an 11-second lead, 11.5, 12 seconds. Fredrik Rasmussen has to race the race like he would any other. He's got to continue working at minimum 95% plus, and he's got to keep on pushing that vehicle to get it home. The race is not done after 19 laps. The race is done after 44. Sebastian Joe's proven that already, and I think Freddie Rasmussen will look to prove that even further as well. It just seems at this stage that now we need to focus on the 6th of Orozco, because if he can put a magic lap time down, he'll be able to pull back in Alex Simpson. And looking at where Alex Simpson is in comparison, he's got clean air, so he's got to work twice as hard as Simpson does.
Yeah, Michael Dinkel down on towards lane. He has to do something here in terms of dragging himself back up to that #1 core sim racing car. Freddie Rasmussen, Joshua Rogers, Tommy Ostgaard decide to head their way on towards the lane. Preston and Montanez, they decide to stay out yet another lap, and so does Diego Oliveira. So a little bit of a split strategy here in terms of the exact lap that these drivers will be coming in towards the lane. Michael Dinkel will get himself off and away. We've also got the drivers of Spa-Francorchamps as well. And where is Alex Simpson is the issue in terms of where he comes out in relation to Ricardo Orozco. There's Simpson, there's Ricardo Orozco, and Simpson has a decent gap over the Brazilian driver at this moment in time, but Orozco will have 1 lap fresher tires, Johnny. It may not sound like much, but it could be the difference that matters.
No, it does. Over the rest of the race distance, just over halfway through as well. Sorry, just under halfway through we are. That is going to make such a dramatic difference in terms of lap time and just cumulative input every single lap for the rest of this event. So he's also fed just in front of Moritz Lochner, who's very speedy. He looks good. For Michael Dinkel, though, I'd be satisfied with the P2 that could be happening, or you know, he could be achieving right now, because that's more than he should have been getting. Just remember that Sebastian Job should really be in that P2 spot.
Yep, he really should be as on board with Freddie Rasmussen as he heads his way through the bus stop and again misses pit lane this time by, and that is to be expected. He has a comfortable buffer, doesn't have to worry about Michael Dinkel trying to get the undercut because he won't get much of one with the 10-second gap, and he can just basically make his own strategy, make his own calls as to whether he comes down towards the lane, not be forced by any other drivers out there on circuit right now. Who else decides to head their way down towards the lane? That's the Australian Riley Preston deciding to bring things down as he gets the car slowed down for those yellow cones. 2 PSR guys enter the pits behind him as well. That's Tommy Ostgaard. Jorge Montanez will be following the Evolution Racing Team driver down on towards the lane. And we have to remember here, Jake, that they can't get the suspension damage repaired on these cars in the pit stop. So I think we will just still see Riley Preston with a very quick time here. And in fact, yes, up and down off the jacks, off the way he goes, still with that damage, but with fresher rubber.
No carbon tape you can apply to these vehicles, and while he rounds that corner, looks to get back out and going, and he slots himself behind Moritz Lohner and also just in front of Michael Partington. So Partington's really gained here in this stint, and he wants to stay with his teammate because both of them want to be inside that top 10 come the end of this event. They both want to be fighting for top 10 points in the championship. They've seen 2 drivers struggle. Look at the overspeed though. Michael Partington's going to have straight through on his teammate. I don't think that's multi-21, and he almost runs far too deep into the corner. Preston's going to let him have it though.
It was so close to getting that car, well, so marginal to getting that car stopped there for Michael Partington. As down into Ravaji goes again, slightly misses the apex, decides to go for the later one instead. As a result of that one, as the battle between 2 teammates, I think they'll be relatively fair with each other here. Of course, we don't want to see contact between 2 teammates. That would be absolutely horrible to see. But as they head their way through Pouhon now, that gap is just going to extend a little bit because of the dirty air and the damage that Riley Preston has. We're still waiting for only 2 drivers to head their way on towards the lane for their service. Frederick Rasmussen and the driver of Diogo Oliveira as well. Freddie Rasmussen stays out yet another lap on those old tires. Oliveira, he's just coming up towards the bus stop now. So let's see what he does. Does he bring it down towards the lane? The answer to that one is going to be no. So Oliveira and Rasmussen going for this very long first stop, Jake.
Yeah, a very long first stop. He's at half distance at the end of this lap, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him dive down and 50-50 the stints. Anything further, I think, puts him in a little bit of jeopardy potentially, but you know, he's got every license to do what he does, what he wants. Behind, though, I want to keep an eye on this one. Carl Winkler suddenly in a scrap with Jorge Montanez. This one for net P11, P10 out on circuit. And for Carl Winkler, who got 2 split 2 victories, this top 10 could mean so much in terms of his championship to get himself back on track.
Yeah, unlike last season in the Pro Series, the points difference between top split and second split is just a little bit more as he gets a huge moment over the top of Radion there. That was so close. He still has the run. He has a massive run over Montanez coming down into the curve. Is that a slowdown penalty for Montanez? I don't think he skipped over the curbs coming into Eau Rouge, but that was a catastrophic loss of speed there for Montanez. As looking at things here, I don't think he got a slowdown penalty. So what could be the possible cause of that one, Johnny?
Well, we're having a look at it now. He's just... Oh, goodness. I'm confused too. Something's gone wrong for Jorge Montanez as Carl Winkler sailed past. ERS as well is a big part to play because Carl Winkler was up to 350 kilometers an hour. So don't forget, setup also makes a difference. Maybe it was just Carl Winkler deploying all of that ERS in one go across the Camel Straight. He's got low drag and plenty of straight line speed as Freddie Rasmussen comes into the pit lane for the first time and only time possibly this race.
Yep, he will do angle his car for the pit exit, which is what you have to do at some of these tracks when you're on that front pit stall. Gets himself off and away. Michael Dinkel has his car spin in front of him. That was Diego Oliveira. Was he trying to hit pit lane there? Was Oliveira, as Rasmussen will get out well ahead of Dinkel. But what has happened to Oliveira here as he just gets a slide through the second apex of the bus stop right in front of Michael Dinkel, which would be number 2 runner. And oh, that must have been such a heart-in-mouth moment for Dinkel, Jake.
Yeah, and that was all clipping that curb, that second curb. The high anti-cut curb was the issue. Now Oliveira sitting duck in comparison to Josh Rogers. He'll let him go through, no troubles about it. I think if Oliveira wants to pit, he can. The other alternative here, as we are past halfway, is that maybe Oliveira thinking about no stops here, and that's going to be a risky strategy if that is the case. But Oliveira should come down in. If that was any indication of he needs to come down onto the lane, I think there we saw a prime example.
Yeah, I think we did as well. As the 26-degree track temp, it is pretty cold out there, but with such a high tire degradation track as such as Spa, I don't think the zero stop is really going to work out for Oliveira if he goes for it. Of course, it's just a very rare occasion that one works. You have to have a perfect combination of weather and a low degradation racing circuit as well. So Oliveira, he's just so twitchy going through Pouhon and through Lafania, just losing yet more time. So I think he's best served just to bring that car down towards the lane, Johnny. Just get that fresh rubber in the car. There's no point in taking any risks at this point.
Yeah, because you're right. So, I mean, he's past halfway the distance anyway. There's no point staying out there. Just make the pit stop. It's only a detriment from here on in. And 26 degrees, by the way, Connery, I reckon that's pretty good. If you lay on the track, does that mean it feels like 26 degrees? If you just lay flat on the tarmac face down, you'd feel good. You know, it was 42 degrees as Oliveira comes to the pit lane. You know, it's 42 degrees or 43 degrees here in Melbourne, Australia today. That's illegal. So, and we had highways melting. Hopefully this Spa-Francorchamps circuit doesn't melt at 26 degrees track temp. That's actually a true story that happened today.
Well, Johnny's issues of being an Australian aside, Diego Oliveira heads his way down on towards the lane to get his one and only service. Gets his car stopped in the box, quickly up and down on the tracks, and gets himself off and away. And something to be very interesting here is where he comes out in relation to all the other drivers. Behind Alex Bergeron at this moment in time will make it... Oh, he's gone Castani ahead of him as well. That's gone through. But yeah, behind Alex Bergeron he is. And the next driver behind him is Adam Tierney, who was quite far back, so he's got no pressure from behind. He's got all the passes to make up now, Jake, with the fresher rubber.
Well, I'm surprised actually he's done the move that he's done, because he's dropped probably 5 or 6 positions through the pit stop window by staying out as long as he had. Spin didn't help, but Diego Oliveira now is going to have to charge through the field. He's got the freshest rubber out of anybody else. It will be easier to make those moves, but he's got to have a lot of faith in his abilities for the last 20 laps or so. This is not an easy challenge from Oliveira. And, you know, he's trying to go outside of the box, but I think the box very much said that the idea was a bit too far out.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And the battle still is on for P number 8 between Michael Partington and Riley Preston. This is basically a battle of who can get inside the top 10 in the standings. One of the crucial battles out there on the racing circuit right now. Preston looking for the run down in towards Blanchimont and into the bus stop as well. And he could potentially be close enough if he gets a good run through here, but he just doesn't get it. Partington gets the best of the two of them off that corner. Steves defends the move coming down in towards the bus stop there as we take things on towards lap number 25 of 44 in this event. Riley Preston, we have to remember, still has that little bit of damage. They wouldn't have got that repaired in the pit stops. There's a little puff of brake smoke, a little puff of locking up the tires there for Michael Partington, and this could be the chance, the slight advantage that Riley Preston needs. Good run through Eau Rouge and Radion needed to set up that DRS pass coming down the Kemmel Straight. Here we go, DRS wide open on that ERT car, run down towards Lecombe, but I don't think he's going to make it. He's just instantly saving ERS. Once he realized the move wasn't on there, Johnny, he just backed out of it, saves up those batteries.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to use up all the energy in one go if there's no chance of a pass. And those small puffs as well at La Source, the small lockups, they don't really hurt you too much. So it's okay if you're just pushing just beyond the limit. You can still gain a bit of time. You won't lose too much. It just shows that you're really trying hard. As Alex Bergeron possibly may have lost the position here to Diogo Oliveira. So he definitely did. We got confirmation of that. And that was across the Kemmel Straight. So that was Diogo Oliveira sailing straight past him. There you go, Connery. Alex Bergeron down to P16.
Yeah, of course, they're both Evolution Racing Team cars as well as potential slowdown penalty for Alex Bergeron, but from what I can see, he's just harvesting ERS all the way through Radion and Eau Rouge and all the way down the Kemmel Straight as well, so maybe also a little bit of team orders coming into play there. Just let Diego Oliveira through. He obviously the faster driver at this stage, you know, but he's been put back because of that alternate strategy and that spin that he had before his one and only stop. There's still a battle, close battle between Carl Winkler and Jorge Montanez as well, as Winkler makes his way inside of that top 10. Started P number 15, so a good first half of the race for him, Jake. But now he has to basically show what he made of. You know, you can talk about split 2 wins all you want, but this is where all the big boys play, and if you can prove it here, you can prove it anywhere.
Well, Core normally have a very good race at this circuit. Let's take Paschalis Jurgis, for example, in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, qualified P4 during the last season. That was by far and away his greatest qualifying. So it is very much the strongest track that Core Sim Racing are going to find themselves. And there's no surprises that Winkler's gone past Jorge Montanez there. That was fantastically done by the number 30 machine. But P number 9 at the moment. He'll take some very solid points, and when you consider where he was in the championship beforehand coming into this one, he was there sitting about P19 overall, and we've got some issues.
As actually Zoran Jonjic has just managed to get himself past the ERT driver of Boris Spolstra there, as almost a late defensive move from Spolstra down into the Lecombe chicane, but he did back out of throwing that block there, because that one could have definitely ended in tears if he mistimed moving towards the inside line there, Johnny.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of moves into that corner, so that good to see again today. The overtaking is spot on, looks good through this middle section. Spolstra comes 13, 14, then 15. So easy to run wide here. It's very slippery on that green part of the curb. Don't run out there. And the rear end, it's so easy to step out here if you don't have the third spring set up, or the packers, etc., the ride heights. The car can just lay out into the concrete barrier. You don't want that happening. And then Blanchimont, don't scrub off any speed. Very light on the steering. Don't tight grip the wheel. Don't get a tight feeling where you start to stress your muscles out. Just be calm, collected through the final corner. Hit that same brake marker you've hit throughout practice for the past few weeks. I like Boris Spolstra here. He's got a chance to possibly fight his way back, because remember, he's still within clutching. No, he's not. I was about to say he could possibly pass Zoran Jonjic, but Jonjic has screamed out of La Source. And there's no looking back for Zoran from here.
Yeah, fantastic low-speed traction from the Orion Race Team car. Just actually very close to breaking the DRS, but DRS still in effect here for Boris Spolstra. He has that one to be very thankful for, that he didn't drop off the DRS zone. But battle still between Carl Winkler and Montanez. Still very close, even though Winkler has been defending relatively successfully over the past couple of laps. Montanez still not able to find a way through. You've also got Montanez's teammate as well, Tommy Ostgaard, behind these guys, and he is multiple tenths of a second faster, around about 6/10 of a second faster to be exact, than these two drivers in front of him that last time by. Osgaard is on a charge, Jake.
Well, seeing as 3 times 2 is 6, 3 multiples there was absolutely correct of you, Connery, in terms of your verbiage. But Tommy Osgaard really looking to try and make that push. You said 6/10 of a second quicker. Osgaard's got his teammate in front, Montañez, and I think that with Tommy's position, I think he's got to weigh up this one. He wants to get past the pair of them, but he knows that he will really hurt Montañez with that one extra position. But he may decide, Montañez, to let through Osgaard so Osgaard can be the pick to get back past Carl Winkler. It could be as easy as that.
I thought just for a moment there, Jake, that you were about to make a quick maths meme there.
No.
As you didn't, you didn't disappoint me. I would have been disappointed if you did make it, as they hit their way through the bus stop chicane. And Montañez, still no chance over Winkler at this moment in time. And Osgaard still closing in, another half a second taken out by the Norwegian. He's on an absolute run at this moment in time. Of course, qualify P number 9, looking to get himself back inside of that crucial top 10. As they head their way through Eau Rouge, through Radion, looking to get the best runs out of here is Riley Preston and Bartington. They were battling coming down into the Lacombe chicane. I did see it out of the corner of my eye, and Preston did get it, in fact, and put him up in towards P number 7 now. Fantastic drive so far for Riley Preston, considering all that he has been through, and that could be him getting his ticket, or at least having a better chance at getting his ticket inside that top 10, Jake.
Yeah, better chance of getting that top 10 ticket, and he needed it. He needed that position. It is at the expense of his teammate Partington, but Partington will still take good points away from position number 8. But, you know, if I was a team boss, maybe you can argue you try and balance things out, get both of them into a position. They were what was P11 and P number 15 in the championship heading into this one, so points are vital between the pair, but very good decisions between them to make the moves that they have, and a good move from Riley Preston, especially with the steering damage that he has on his vehicle right now. Keep an eye on Orozco, though. He's put himself within 1.2 seconds of Alex Simpson. If he gets DRS, I think he'll be desperate to try and get through to finish in 4th.
Yeah, I was just about to mention it. A couple of tenths of a second gained that last time by. In terms of this time by, it's yet another couple of tenths of a second, 4 tenths to be exact, for Ricardo Orozco. So he has a big shot at being number 4 if that particular trend continues here. Same with Montañez goes so deep on the brakes into the last source. Actually backs up his teammate in the end behind him, as Osgaard just was trapped behind him as he tried to cut and take the normal track exit there. So very, very careful between these two drivers. I know, Jake, that we like to talk about Okayama in the Grand Prix series between the PSR drivers. Let's just hope that doesn't happen again for their sake.
Yeah, we don't like to see teammates collecting each other, although how great of a storyline spectacle that can sometimes be. But you know, you look at this situation now for Montañez. He's got to make something happen. If he's not going to make it happen in the next 5 laps or so, he might as well give Tommy an opportunity, because he's just sitting there waiting, not doing anything to work. Orozco brings the gap, though, under a second to Alex Simpson. And now, with the issue of straight line speed that Positive Sim Racing seemingly have had here today, I think that Orozco really needs to maximize this middle part of the section, get himself as close as possible to the back of the Apex Racing UK team boss.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely crucial for him. As you can see, just visually, the gap has just closed so much over the last couple of laps, and now well within the DRS zone, and that will come into effect on the Kemmel straight here. So just a couple of more corners to go before we see that in effect, as Orozco again goes so deep on the brakes, Johnny. He's absolutely wheeling that car around this circuit. He's come alive in the last couple of laps.
And needs these points for the championship too, so Alex Simpson here is on the back foot. Bonchimon to go. Orozco's got a good chance.
Yeah, potentially a good chance. Good run needed out of Eau Rouge and Radion to set up the run for Lecombe. Let's just see exactly what happens here. Good run for Orozco through there. We'll have the help of the DRS and the slipstream, but visually, I think he's just a little bit too far back. And in fact, he will agree with me there. Just stays behind just for this moment in time. Just has to be patient here, Jake. Just there's no rush here. A top 5 finish would be brilliant for Orozco and his championship standings. He doesn't need to make this move if he doesn't have to.
He doesn't need to make this move, but how much does Ricardo Orozco want to make this move? Want to be inside the top 4? Want to prove it against someone who's inside the top 3 in the championship? That's what is at stake. There's sometimes more than the points that are available. There is reputation, there is pride, and there is ability to try and force a mistake. What say happens if he makes that move, Simpson tries to push back, and Simpson loses the vehicle then? What would that say in terms of the championship picture? Orozco wants to push Simpson because he knows if Simpson's not in that top 10 come 2018, his life is a little bit easier when he gets into those races.
Yeah, exactly. Another little tidbit of information with the straight line deficit that those positive sim racing cars have. They're about 1 mile an hour slower with the draft and the DRS, Johnny, and that is absolutely insane when you think about it. Usually you'd set up this car for perhaps on the lower downforce side of things, but PSR have gone for a slightly different philosophy here, maximizing those medium and high-speed corners and just suffering on the straights as a result.
If you time your ERS deployment, as Orozco makes a mistake into La Source, you time all your ERS deployment at the right time, it doesn't matter. You know, that can make a huge difference in terms of straight line speed. Alex Simpson will be doing the same on the defensive.
Yes, he will. You can use the RS as an offensive weapon or a defensive shield to try and battle things out with the drivers front or behind you. As Alex Bergeron, I believe, just lost a position there to what is going to be the driver of Victor Preto, I believe. Yes, he was so slow. In fact, he had to spin. He had a single car spin coming through the first Stavilo here, coming on towards the curb, tries to get the power down. In fact, does hit that Armco barrier on the inside of the corner there, and lets Adam Tierney and Victor Preto through. So put that Radclaw's online driver up 1 position, and also Preto as well. And on pit road is that particular driver of Alex Bergeron. He is not going to bring that car to the end.
No, he's not, and it looks like that could be the end of his championship adventures. And Alex Bergeron, he knew exactly what he needed to do. He was an ex-driver in the WCS out of last season, didn't manage to finish inside the top 30, had to go through qualification, didn't have the iRacing in the early stages of this season to really make something happen, and that has really hurt him come the end, because we've seen the pace that he's had. He has been able to fight up inside the top 10, the top 15, score some crucial points, but still again, look at Ricardo Orozco, still within 0.3 of a second of the driver in front. When he crosses the line, he's got 12 laps to go to make this move for position number 4, and you can see just how much of a better exit Alex Simpson has. It is just mastery from the Englishman.
Yeah, I'm just seeing Orozco just close up through the middle sector, but when it comes to getting traction out of the corners, it just isn't happening. And there's another good exit for the Apex Racing UK car. Just keeps Orozco behind Alex Simpson right now, and Simpson is doing all that he can, but a good run through Eau Rouge for Ricardo Orozco.
Oh, Tommy.
Thing is, if he...
What a move. What a move. He's gone side by side down into La Source. He still is. He's not going to get the run off the exit here. We know that Core are quicker on the accelerator. So, Tommy, we saw the teammate go through, or we didn't. So, Montagne's already got through a couple of laps ago. Now it's time for Tommy Osgaard to start thinking about going for it.
Yeah, he will have DRS as well, so he was behind at the activation point as defensive inside line taken by Winkler. Osgaard having to do the cutback move through the first apex, coming through the second apex, coming up to Malmedy. Still no gap for Osgaard to make his way back through. Here comes the inside down towards Rivage, though. Has to go deep on the brakes, but does not go deep enough on the brakes. Still tries to wrestle the inside line away from the core sim racing driver there, heading through No Name Corner. But I think Carl Winkler has this position secured just for this moment. Osgaard will get a whole bunch of dirty air coming through Pouon here, Johnny, and I think he'll drop behind, but no, look at that. It's just the higher downforce setup of the PSR car that means that dirty air isn't that much of a factor coming through Pouon. He's still in this, Johnny.
You don't underestimate well, you can't underestimate how difficult that is. Downhill braking zones alongside somebody else, so easy to run a lot deeper than you should, just because you don't have gravity slowing you down like an uphill braking zone or a flat section of the racetrack. These guys were solid, robust. Here they come again towards the end of the lap. We're 1 hour through the race, and still battles ongoing. Good to see close action.
Yeah, it is absolutely brilliant to see, as Oscar had a little bit of trouble on the Spa-Francorchamps there. Not catastrophic trouble, of course, as looking to set up the run out of the bus stop. Here he comes down towards La Source, has the run, has the slipstream. What does Winkler do? Does he defend the inside line here? He does. Around the outside goes Ostergaard. Has to try and get the cutback move, try and get the run off the corner, but he doesn't get it. And Winkler still holds the position at this moment in time. Orozco and Simpson are still as they were. Simpson ahead, Orozco behind, still no pass for Orozco to get himself past, but back to Ostergaard now. Battle for P number 10 it is. Ostergaard with the DRS, with the slipstream, has another chance over Carl Winkler, and yet again, defensive inside line, here comes Ostergaard, trying to wrestle the inside line away from him. There wasn't a car's width there between himself and the driver and the grass there, so very, very risky move potentially for Ostergaard. Does decide better of it though, and back out of it, but those are the risks that Ostergaard wants to take here, Jake. He's going all out.
Well, he's got no other alternatives here. He's inside the top 10 in the championship. Staying in the top 10 gives him hope. But look at what all this battling has done for the pair of them. Zoran Jonjic now on the back of the train. Boris Spolstra wanting to get on that train. And the fastest man of them all is Diogo Oliveira, who is running a second a lap quicker. And he is approaching the back of this train for the final 10 laps. Oliveira, thanks to the work of Carl Winkler and Tommy Ostergaard, could be still in the running for a top 10.
Could well be, and Oliveira, once he gets to this train, he'll have an easier time of getting past cars than Tommy Ostergaard is having right now in terms of his issues with Carl Winkler, and we'll just see how big of a factor that Oliveira plays in this battle over the next couple of laps as he tries to drag himself up towards this fight. Ostergaard still not close enough to Winkler as they head down into the bus stop now. There's Montanez ahead that these guys are actually dropping off of the back of, so Montanez basically just run for the hills. P number 9 could potentially still be yours as these guys tried to fight things out in towards La Source. Looking back towards Simpson and Orozco though, Orozco's just dropping off the back every single time as they head their way across the line. He might have taken way too much out of those tires in these late stages, Johnny. Just not enough left in the car.
Well, coming towards the closing stages, so you just have to tough it out, drink that cup of concrete, and tough it out for the rest of this race. As you're right, Oliveira, I was very surprised when Jake said that, but it is very realistic that Oliveira can make this top 10. You know, see what he can do. He's definitely experienced in the World Championship too. Diogo, great personality in the sim racing world. He's coming through now. Turn 10, downhill, right-hander. Love this corner. You can see the darkened line as well. I mentioned that every race. Starting to help that racing line a little bit more. You don't want to be off into the marbles where there's less grip. You also see the gravel coming onto the circuit on some portions where drivers are running off and then coming back onto the track, and that can also affect grip. So these closing stages, any adjustments to driving style, you're going to make them now.
Yeah, you have to make it now as we're coming up to 10 laps to go as Rasmussen, in fact, it is exactly 10 laps to go for Rasmussen as he heads his way across the line here. Looking back towards Ostergaard and Winkler though. Ostergaard, he has the pace here. I feel he has the pace, but he just hasn't been close enough to make those moves. He has had a couple of chances, of course, but chances that he has not capitalized on just yet, as he will still try to find his way past. But looking back to Orozco and Simpson, Jake, this gap has just extended a little bit, and Orozco risking dropping out of the DRS here. I think he will still have it as they come across the DRS line this time. In fact, that rear wing flat will open, but Orozco, he's just letting Simpson get away from him right now.
Yes, and I don't think there's much more that Ricardo Orozco can do. He may be looking about the incident point limit as well. It's only at 15, and we know that Spa-Francorchamps traditionally in the past has been one of the most difficult circuits to not pick up incident points. They've relaxed it a little bit over the years, but it's still very, very fierce. And Ostergaard, another little look, not going to happen on Carl Winkler. Though to Riley Preston, he's caught Moritz Lohner here in the last few laps. The gap now under a second, for P6 is going to come into play. It was a 49.4 on that last lap from him.
49.4 versus a 49.5, and well, that's closer to 6, so let's just say that's 0.2 of a second gain there for Riley Preston. So he's looking to get himself up into P number 6, which would be an absolutely brilliant finish considering what happened earlier. Let's just see if that one does in fact happen. Osgaard and Winkler still trying to follow each other through the middle sector now, coming through the Lafonia chicane, and Osgaard, his car is going to be performing quite well here, Johnny, with the higher downforce setup that we suspect that the positive sim racing cars are running. But right now, he's just not dragging himself up quite close enough just yet. He may have an opportunity with a good run through Blanchimont into the bus stop, but you know, with about 9 laps to go as these guys come across the line, as a little bit twitchy coming through Blanchimont. Have to be careful there. Osgaard shows the nose down into the bus stop. Still no opportunity.
He started in the top 10. He's currently in 11th, so this will give him some sort of remorse in terms of finishing outside the top 10, but we'll see what happens with Carl now as they come out of the source. Riley Preston's also close to Moritz Lochner. They're going to come, well, they're on the Kemmel Straight here. Preston's going to go up to 335 kilometers an hour. Very high top speed for the Evolution Racing team car, but we've seen guys like Carl Winkler go up to almost 350, and that's the top speeds you generally see at Spa. So let's have a look now at Tommy Osgaard. No chance on Carl Winkler. If you're going to be stuck behind anyone, you don't want to be stuck behind Mr. Carl Winkler.
No, and Winkler is just basically backing everyone up at this stage, and Oliveira's pace has slowed down just a bit. Only a 49.4 that last time by, and that is just a 1/10 of a second faster than the group of cars ahead of him. So, you know, with those fresher tires, not quite working as well as thought they would coming towards the end of this event. As wide goes Winkler, wide goes Osgaard through Pouhon. They are absolutely wheeling these things around the circuit, Jake. They know what's at stake here in terms of the top 10.
It's not that Oliveira is slowing down. It's the fact that these guys are speeding up, and Osgaard's tyres are looking very circumspect at this stage. He's had 2 wiggles now in the last 3 corners. 1 through Pouhon, 1 through Fania. And now he's thinking about Zoran Jonjic behind, not Carl Winkler in front. That's a scary prospect because Oliveira will wait. He has Spolstra that he can deal with first. That will be the easy pickings. They're teammates. Then you got Jonjic. Then you got Osgaard, then you got Winkler, and I think right now Tommy Osgaard's thinking it's starting to fall away a little bit. Maybe I wish I did a little bit more practice. Maybe I should have done this long run whilst I was in these slipstream drafts, because once you're stuck behind in that tow, those tyres get worse and worse and worse.
Yep, they really do. And having a look at when these drivers came on towards the lane, Osgaard has the 2 laps advantage. There's actually, here comes up Riley Preston down towards driver's right-hand side down the Kemmel Straight. Easy pass, easiest pass that he's probably had all day coming down the Kemmel Straight there with the help of the ERS, with the help of the DRS, and lack of ERS for Moritz Lochner means he's down that position now, and Preston put him up in towards P number 6. No top 5 chance for him, I don't think, unless something happens at the front, as Osgaard and Jonjic, in fact, they are battling through the Lacombe chicane there. Osgaard had to go so defensive there when the Orion Racing driver had the run on the outside, and now this is the chance for Winkler to try and get away, Johnny. He has to know that this battle is happening in his wing mirrors. He has to try and put the pedal to the metal now to try and get away.
Yeah, and as I said, you don't want to be tight gripping the wheel because you'll be very tired come the end of the race. Some drivers will be sweating. If you're in Europe, it's winter, probably the opposite. You'll be feeling ice. But at the same time, who's got ice in their veins? Who's going to choke under pressure? That's the biggest key in these last remaining laps. The nerves really build up. When you see that lap counter start to tick down, 6, 5 to go, 4 to go, etc., that's when you actually start to really switch it on. If you're a clutch driver, you go into a different state, a different mode, a different mentality where Zoran Jonjic, I feel, is towards the end of this race. He's going to push because he needs a license.
Yep, he will, and well, various situations with the DRS here. We've got Orozco in range of Simpson. You've got Alona that's starting to try and get back within the DRS range of Preston, and also you've got these drivers that we have been watching all day in this battle for getting inside the top 10. Winkler, Ostgaard, Zonjic, and Spolstra. We've just also got Oliveira as well. He's now got himself up towards being within the DRS zone of Boris Spolstra here. So that could be absolutely crucial. That's the extra bit of lap time that he needs, Jake, to drag himself back up to this group. They did pick up the pace in the last couple of laps, as you said there, Jake. But Oliveira with DRS, with fresher tires, that's a force to be reckoned with.
And Kalistani out of the event, and that's going to pay dividends to his championship. He was running in 16th position overall on that one, coming out of La Source. And well, bus stop chicane as well. He ran into some very hefty issues as he just tried to get onto the power. The vehicle bit back on the curb and lost all sorts of traction because of it. But it's to Oliveira we have to focus, because he's just struggled now on this lap, struggled with maybe a little bit of a modicum of dirty air. He's got to make sure that he stays within this one, because he needs those positions. He's fighting for that championship as much as anybody else is. P14's not going to get the job done today, not compared to his rivals like Jonjic, like Ostgaard. And he's letting drivers like Winkler take points away from him.
Yeah, this is crucial for the championship for Oliveira. As you say, he needs these positions. It's not a case of wanting the positions, as we saw earlier towards the top half of the top 10. Oliveira needs these positions to try and drag himself back up those standings and have a chance in the final 3 races of getting himself a Pro WC license. Ostgaard and Winkler close, coming down into the bus stop chicane, follow each other very, very closely coming through here. And Winkler gets the very good run off. Ostgaard still struggling with that rear traction as he gets those twitches over the past couple of laps. Coming down into the last source now, and still not good enough of a run for Ostgaard, but this is still pretty close. As long as he gets this run off, he could still have a chance with the DRS here, especially with Carl Winkler harvesting ERS as he was through Eau Rouge just then. But ERS will be deployed, DRS will be wide open for Ostgaard, and Winkler still with the speed advantage as that slowly starts to go to Ostgaard with the help of the DRS. But Winkler is managing this one very well, Jake.
Yeah, certainly Carl Winkler has been very astute in his defense, has only defended when he's needed to, not when he has seen maybe a vehicle close to him again. You saw Tommy Ostgaard not close enough into Ravage. No real response from the driver of Carl Winkler. He just took his normal line and he said, you know what? You're going to have to try and get right up alongside if you want me to start defending here. And Tommy Ostgaard will soon have to oblige, because he knows about the trains of drivers that are behind. Keep an eye, though, still on Ricardo Orozco, because he's not gone away from Alex Simpson for 4th position overall. And I think the pair of them know that once Orozco just tries to get within that 1 second, he's going to be trying everything to keep Alex Simpson busy and occupied. And right now, I think Ricardo Orozco has to do something different. Maybe just try and find a different line that works for him in a couple of corners, especially with the tyres starting to fall.
Yeah, a little bit of a suggestion from our director there that PRT and ERT may be having some deployment and harvesting issues with the ERS. Of course, it is a relatively new feature in terms of the optimized mode in these Formula 1 machines, so you don't have to do much manual management of the ERS at all. But a couple of the older drivers, the older teams in this series, they've been used to doing it manually all the time, and perhaps can be, as Ashley Orozco, here he comes, DRS down towards the Lecombe chicane, still no way to try and get himself past. Meanwhile, Oliveira and Spolstra side by side through towards Eau Rouge, and Oliveira has to back out of things there, but will he get the run off the top of Radion? He still will have the DRS, I suspect. In fact, both of them will have the DRS. Both of them were within 1 second of another car coming towards the activation point, and that was a big chance for Oliveira to get himself back past. And what instigated this? It was a dive down the inside for Oliveira at La Source. Boris Spolstra did push wide, but not enough guts, Jake, to take it too wide through Eau Rouge.
No, it didn't quite happen. I think that the pair of them have to be careful, because they are costing each other this race by scrapping together. No team orders, yes, I like, but for Evolution Racing Team, for their entire team right now being outside of the top 10. They need drivers in. Oliveira has to make positions. Oliveira is the quickest driver on this field. You've got to have a word in Boris Spolstra's ear, say you've got to let Oliveira through. He has a better chance this race of scoring points than you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Jake, and he's just not doing his teammate any favors, is Spolstra right now. You know, Oliveira needs these positions much more than Spolstra at this stage. Spolstra, and oh, it's such a twitch there through the second Stavlo for Oliveira, and will he get the pass down in towards the bus stop chicane here? He can't afford to get held up by his teammate much longer. His teammate is harvesting ERS right in front of his nose, and he has to stay behind just as a result of that one, still behind him coming through the bus stop. There's going to be what we suspect is no team orders here, but it may be better served for ERT that they have those team orders, Johnny.
Yeah, exactly, but remaining laps of the race anyway, just let them race.
Again.
Don't want any of that kind of stuff as they go wide, as you mentioned. Switch it on now. Let's go. Let's see how it goes. Ricardo Orozco close to Alex Simpson too. Let's see how he goes.
Yeah, very, very close, but still no cigar for Orozco. And it's the same sort of situation in this battle. This string of cars just inside, outside of the top 10. As Ostgaard has actually, was he broken the DRS to Zoran Jonjic there? No, Jonjic still had DRS. It was so marginal across the activation point though. So Ostgaard and Winkler could potentially break themselves away from Jonjic and Spolstra and Oliveira, potentially. But good first sector for Jonjic means that is a little bit less likely, as Oliveira, he's still behind Spolstra. What is happening here, Jake?
Not enough momentum from Diogo Oliveira. He can't do it. And Spolstra, I think he's fighting for his seat here. I think he's saying that I can race at this level, and I will prove to you I will race at this level, and I'm racing against you when you have the fresher tyres, when you have the better ability to make that happen. No team orders. Yeah, fine. They're going to scrap that out then to the end of this race. We know that they're not going to let each other go now. But now that has compromised Oliveira. He's not going to get probably to Winkler and Ostgaard. And now it relies on Ostgaard thinking about this top 10, arguably needing that top 10.
Yeah, and Spolstra, yeah, he has just let Oliveira pass, and well, Simon Fegel said in our chat just then, no team orders as an ERT manager, so that was pretty much all on Boris Spolstra and his discussion perhaps with Oliveira. Oliveira finally managing to convince him to make his to move out of the way and get himself back past. There's a little bit of trouble getting the traction down for Oliveira off of the bus stop there. Almost hit the grass there on the driver's right-hand side coming down the pit straight. And now Oliveira, how much time has he lost as a result of this, Johnny? Because he is out of DRS range from Zoran Jonjic. That is just, it's been stuck behind his teammate, has cost him so much.
We'll see what happens at the end of the straight. That's important too, because Jonjic as well is 9/10 behind Ostgaard. He will have DRS, I'm pretty sure, on this Camel straight. So the middle sector, Oliveira is going to have to push hard and don't go beyond 100%, but he's definitely going to have to push to the limit, to the absolute limit in these final laps. Put all the energy out there. You're going to rest after this, so give it your all.
6/10 lost already this lap for him, as Ostgaard still very close to Winkler heading through Rivage. Only a couple of laps to go now. It's going to be 2 to go as Fredrik Rasmussen comes across the line. In fact, he does right now as he gets past the lap traffic of Istvan Balo, but still a little bit more time for these drivers to try and battle it out for P number 10. Ostgaard, he's been close. He's had chances, but can he have one more chance to try and get himself past the Core Sim Racing driver? Core Sim Racing have been oh so quick here at Spa. Maybe they've figured something out with the setup like I suggested because of Pasilis Georges' very good qualifying time in the World Championship Series. But can Ostgaard, Jake, overcome that advantage that I have?
Well, that's the big question, and Carl Vink will be careful. Eye on Orozco, though, because he is right tucked up underneath Alex Simpson into turn number 1, Lassau's hairpin. That's the best run he's had for a while, but Simpson's so good coming off of that corner. May have just given himself the 0.3 of a second that he desperately needs. They head to Eau Rouge and Radion. Left, right, and left, and you feel Orozco in a much better position than he has been. ERS is being saved by Alex Simpson. I'm not sure he's saved enough over the last few laps. Here comes Ricardo Orozco to the outside to try and make it happen here at Les Combes, but he's hung out to dry like yesterday's washing. He's got one last chance.
Just not enough straight line speed in that car, even with the slipstream, even with the DRS, even with the ERS, even with Alex Simpson saving it, still not enough speed.
And Tommy's
not enough straight line speed in Orozco's car. car as Tommy Oscar did in fact make his way through, but here comes Winkler back on him, coming up towards Lecombe just before the braking zone. Fantastic move back around the outside for him, battling side by side through the second apex up towards Malmedy as well. Winkler's back through, Johnny.
Yeah, but what about Zoran Jonic? Didn't get the run out of Lecombe, so now this is a three-way fight here in the remaining lap to... Oh my goodness gracious, Carl Winkler with that straight line speed. That setup choice has paid dividends for him today. Top 10 finish possibly.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant drive from at least two of the three core sim racing drivers out there. And circuit as Oliveira takes a slide through Pouon and collects Boris Spoelstra, his teammate, as well. And that is not what ERT would have wanted. Oliveira did get held up by his teammate and eventually takes out his teammate as he spins in the middle of the circuit. Spoelstra tried to avoid it the best he could, but he picked the wrong direction to go in, that driver's right-hand side, and it takes both teammates out, Jake.
Unbelievable. The white flag will fly. It's the final lap of this event for Frederik Rasmussen, who heads through
Orozco,
the
he goes down towards the inside.
He does. That's brilliant there from Orozco. He's got it, but now the question is, does he have the straight line speed, Connery? Because we've seen what's happened with Core already.
Yes, we have, and could be potentially having a look for a move into the Eau Rouge section here for Alex Simpson. No, he backs out of that one, not close enough. But here comes the straight line speed advantage of the Apex Racing UK car. No ERS to help here, but the thing is, look at that overspeed. That is absolutely huge for Alex Simpson. It's going to be nothing that Ricardo Orozco could have fought with coming down into Lecombe, and Alex Simpson gets the pass back on the final lap of this race, and now it's going to be after the last-ditch effort, perhaps down into the bus stop for the Brazilian driver Ricardo Orozco to try and get himself back through. Almost all of the other battles in this field have fizzled out right now, apart from this one. But here comes Freddie Rasmussen coming up towards Blanchimont now, and he has been absolutely dominant in qualifying, dominant in the race once his teammate had his instant up into Eau Rouge and Radion through the bus stop for the final time. Freddie Rasmussen will win the round number 7 here at Spa-Francorchamps. Fantastic race for him. Dingle will eventually come across the line and pick up a second place here, but Orozco and Simpson, still the battle that is on, and I think Simpson has just done enough here to keep himself ahead of the very fast Brazilian driver behind him, and it's going to be a little bit too far back for Orozco here. I believe it's just going to have to be an almighty dive bomb down the inside, but even that I don't think will get himself past. He goes deep on the brakes anyway, tries to close the gap, but Simpson will hold on for P number 4. Fantastic race there, Johnny.
Brilliant event. Orozco across the line. Thrilling as Tommy Oscar actually spun on the final lap, I presume. So now he's lost out a lot of spots there, but that will give points to Zoran Jonic. Michael Partington in the top 10. He'll be pleased with that. He needed some solid points after an abysmal couple of last rounds. He is top 10 talent in the Pro Series, but you can tell today those setup decisions to go for the straight line speed really paid off for some drivers. And you can also tell it's the Pro Series because we saw an abundance of mistakes that you wouldn't see in the World Championship. So for Freddie Rasmussen, who's got an immense amount of pace here, he certainly looks like he'll be a top 5 driver in the World Championship for sure with that pace.
Yeah, that definitely looks to be the case, as yeah, Oscar had a little bit of trouble coming through the bus stop as he tries to go for the move on the driver that was ahead of him, try and gain his position. That was the driver of Carl Winkler, of course, which he's been battling with all race long pretty much. Tries to go down for the apex of the corner, but he just doesn't make it. Entry oversteer there, spins that car right around and lets Zoran Jonic through. And luckily for him, doesn't let anyone else through. Will finish P number 12, but the final race result is, here they are. Freddie Rasmussen will win the race by 20.4 seconds. Absolutely dominant display from him. Michael Dinkel will pick himself up a comfortable second place, exactly where he started. Joshua Rogers will gain 3 positions up into P number 3, and Alex Simpson will hold on just outside of the podium spots, and with a charging Ricardo Orozco behind him in P number 5. But still, good job from both drivers. And you've got Riley Preston, again, a fantastic finish in P number 6 considering, and also Mark Lona, P number 7, Michael Partington, P8, Jorge Montanez, P9, and Carl Winkler, fantastic finish for him, will get himself P number 10. Looking further down the field, though, you've got the likes of Zoran Jonjic, Tommy Ostgaard will drop those position there at the end of the race with that spin through the bus stop chicane. Will have to settle for 12th. Adam Tierney, very quiet race for him, but quiet but deadly one as he heads himself 13 positions up from P number 26 as Victor Preto, P number 14. Then you get towards the cars laps down. You've got Thomas Boucher, Esteban Ballo, Nicholas Rasmussen, Diego Oliveira with the contact with his teammate of Boris Spolstra as well. They'll both finish P18, P19 as Kalastani will end up being 6 laps down, P number 20. Aurelian Talmon, yet another DNF for him, P number 21. Alex Bergeron, P number 22. You've got Zelensky, Michel Ritchie, Sebastian Job, and oh my god, that is a huge topic to talk about in the final couple of rounds of this season. 33 laps down, P number 25. Not a great day for him at all. Evan Lathoris, P26, and Eric Andre, 27. Josh Thompson, disappointing for him, P number 28 in the end. Carl Germanton and David Williams will finish on the final spot in these finishing results. Well, with all that wrapped up, with the hectic end that we had, we'll just take a very, very quick break here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. It will be the post-race show just after this. What was a very frantic and crazy race here at Spa-Francorchamps. It was absolute dominance from Freddie Rasmussen, winning by 20 seconds right at the end there. And well, we have a very special guest in the booth here. It is the one and the only Will Vincent. You were behind the cameras directing that race, and you'll be taking us through this post-race show.
Yeah, it's been amazing. What a race we've had. What storylines have we had coming out of this event today? David Williams, pretty much say goodbye to him in this year's World Championship Grand Prix Series. A couple of other drivers fell by the wayside. People like Alex Bergeron, for example. Bobby Zelensky, pretty much no chance of them making it in. That final lap incident between Diego Oliveira and Boris Spolstra. But the biggest story of the day has got to be another unforced error by Sebastian Job. Down at the Air Rouge Radio Complex, we saw some incidents with him back when he was in the World Championship Series with Apex Racing UK. We've seen him have a couple of unforced errors, of course most notably at Silverstone in this campaign. But this might well be the difference maker between him being in this year's World Championship and him being out. And that is the first thing I think we need to talk about before we go to interviews, Johnny. The thing about that separates good drivers from great drivers, in my opinion, is unforced errors. You have a look in a number of different series. In endurance, in IndyCar, in NASCAR, it's the drivers who can be consistently quick without putting a foot wrong. What we saw again today by Sebastian Job, he is great 99% of the time. That last 1% is what's holding him back.
Yeah, you don't see the greats do that, as you mentioned. You know, most of the greats in sim racing are ultra consistent. The likes of Freddie Rasmussen today, like we saw, Martin Kroenke, Greg Ahutu, for example, they have a whole good history of that. And so that's Sebastian Job's next step, is that he did the same, and we were talking about it before in intermission, is that he did the same things at Apex Racing UK. He's moved teams. Same thing again today, and the same thing in this series. Look, it's a common trait that when drivers have this sort of inconsistency, and ironically this was the same with me when I was a driver, it's hard to coach out of yourself, and it's hard to get someone to just automatically within a year or 2 years develop your consistency. It's generally a trait that sticks with you throughout your career. And so you know, the likes of himself, the other two names that come into mind are Alexei Usiakala and Patrick Holtzman. Those two guys are so quick and great talents in sim racing, and it's just how good could they be if they stay consistent in races? And I don't want Sebastian Job to join the likes of him of what could have been. You know, he's still young and he's still got time to develop. So great point you bring up there.
Yeah, we're just having a look at the start of this event. We saw a three wide moment coming down in towards turn number one. Great start again by the Apex Racing UK drivers. In fact, we were 4 wide in towards turn number one at one point here today. Everyone did make it, Jake, for the most part. Through that first sequence of corners, we saw a little bit of wanting to go side by side through Air Rouge Radion. So the start was good. But then we think about drivers like David Williams, who needed to make moves early and be aggressive. It just didn't work out for him.
Well, no, and David Williams was 6th in the championship coming in. Put that into a perspective with Sebastian Job. Job was 5th in the championship coming into this event, and both drivers who looked like they were a race result away from either tipping it to be safe or tipping it to be not safe. Both drivers have tipped it the other way in the scales and have completely opened the door for a lot of drivers to really capitalize on the situation. And someone like David Williams, who missed the opening round of the season, has fought for everything else to go in and has a lot of respect back at Coanda. You have the likes of Kroenke there, you got Backham there, you've got Piatella there. You talk about all those sorts of drivers who are up there. Mitchell de Jong, don't forget. David Williams is looking to try and join an elite group. And what will it say for David Williams if he can't make it into the top 10 when he's got arguably the best setup in the world, the best teammates in the world helping him, and he just couldn't do it?
Yeah, indeed. So one of the other things I want to talk about before we go and head ourselves to interviews, Connery, is the difference we saw in this race between Fredrik Rasmussen and Sebastian Job, because Freddie was absolutely dominant in qualifying here today. Then you have a look at Sebastian Job. His qualifying laps, having looked at them, they were pretty good. Little twitches here and there, made a couple of little mistakes that could have given him a shot at pole position. Then we talk about the race. And I was looking at Freddie Rasmussen's lap times, about 8 laps to go. Still consistently 0.7 of a second faster than anyone else, but was riding so smoothly. And I think that's what we've got to take away. Rasmussen seems to just be driving this car like at a ballet. Compare that to Sebastian Job, he's driving that car like he's in a mosh pit.
Yeah, and when you talk about Rasmussen, especially with that qualifying lap, even though with a few slight situations where he could have gone even faster, especially with getting his gear shift sorted, coming down his no-name corner, it was basically shades of Martin Kroenke, and that just scares me right now, Will, because Rasmussen, he made his name in GT racing, and then he comes over into this Formula type of car, and you know, has a couple of teething issues at the start, but you know, to be 0.6 of a second faster than your more experienced teammate in these cars in qualifying, and to best him through the race as well, that's just so impressive.
Yeah, we haven't actually got the opportunity yet to talk to your race winner or second place, but we have got Joshua Rogers, who is here now to talk to us, and he stood by with Jake Sperry.
Well, Josh Rogers, it's a race which was very quiet from your perspective, but it was all that it needed to be. +3 for the day, up onto the podium. Vital points for your championship, considering you're going to be away for the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, these last 2 rounds, I knew I kind of had to not necessarily take it too conservative, but I knew I couldn't take too many risks, but I still probably needed some podiums and top 5s. So, yeah, today, good result. We were a little bit lucky with Sebastian's unfortunate spin up top of Eau Rouge, but yeah, nah, all in all, pretty quiet race. I was pretty happy just to sit between Michael and Alex for most of that race. Would have liked to have pushed for Michael in the end, but yeah, couldn't do it.
Sometimes it's not the way that it happens, but you have a lot of opportunities then at the next round of the championship. Of course, we head over to arguably my favourite circuit, being Imola, and a circuit which is very difficult to overtake on, is very narrow compared to quite a lot of other circuits, but one which you have to be a lot more careful with than quite a few other circuits which are long and expansive like Spa-Francorchamps. For you, you know, survival of the fittest, is it very much simply one more finish and you're home and dry?
I would like to hope so. I think it's probably around where I need to be, top 5, I think, to try and solidify myself. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Imola, very technical track, and I guess you'll be running some low downforce there, so those tight corners could be a little bit tricky. But yeah, we'll go in there fresh mind and hopefully just keep it clean and come out in a reasonable position.
And finally, just before we let you go, I mean, you look at what you're doing effectively on your own, in a sense, with TTL Esport, a team that's not necessarily well known for a Formula 1 outfit and a Formula 1 push. Do you think that by yourself making this effort on your own, that you're actually pushing out Australian sim racing far greater than ever before?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Some Aussies in the Long Plain series have been doing much better things than we have, so I think hopefully this is kind of something that will aid Australian sim racing, or Australians in sim racing, give them a little bit of motivation. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm pushing the boundaries that much.
Before we let you go, any shout outs to sponsors?
Yeah, thanks. As always, just huge thanks to TTL Esports and especially Jack Maloney for the spotting tonight. Hyper Stimulator, Sim Spec Engineering, Curse Design Labs, and TTL Esports Driver Academy, and you guys put on the broadcast. Cheers.
No worries there. That's a very, very solid race from Josh Rogers. All that was needed to happen. And, well, I believe we have found something else, Will.
Yeah, we have Michael Dinkle. Came home second place here today. He was 21 seconds almost behind your race winner in the end. But second place is a second place regardless of where you are in terms of time. And Michael is stood by with Jonathan Simon.
Thanks, Will. Michael, you had the lead at the start of the race for a second or two, and then the outside line didn't work for you. Talk about the start for you there, because you could have snatched the lead away from Freddie.
Yeah, I had the lead for for an inch only. I saw him on the right side. He doesn't get the best getaway. But even though I try to stay on the outside, stay clear of everyone, get a good acceleration out of the first corner, Sepp, yeah, plugged into behind me, and after a Rouge, I noticed what pace Freddy was doing. I noticed the pace Sepp was doing. I know, okay, low downforce, goodbye. And basically there, my whole race was settling in and keep the car on the track, because today it was anything else than a nice car to drive.
Yeah, I noticed as well your qualifying pace wasn't as dominant as the past few rounds. Did you approach Spa differently to other rounds and just focus on claiming some good solid points? Because I think P2 is more than you really should have gotten because of Sebastian's retirement. You mean P3 was pretty much the highest you probably should have got.
Yeah, and basically two questions in one. So to answer the first one is the approach was not different to the other tracks, at least. It was settling in some practice laps, changing here, but it is when you got onto the track and you have this feeling something is not working the way you like it, and you're fighting with it every time and every weather you just try something. You know, it's not the track maybe I like so much because I had something, or let's say this special tire model something, and this with me will never be married again, so it's okay. But you have to agree that sometimes you can't do much more, so you have to go on the points. And then I saw Sepp's, well, I saw him after Eau Rouge and he was standing in the middle of the road. Luckily I was slower today, because 2 seconds quicker or closer to the core guys, and I would have smashed into him because he wouldn't be able to escape quickly enough to avoid him. And so I was lucky for myself to be not on the pace today. It saved my race, honestly, so it was pretty good.
No. Well, it's just a bit of good luck in a bad way for you. You're slower, and it means you get to finish second. The other thing I want to say is, did this round make up for those poor performances, the past few rounds? I don't want to call them poor performances. I mean, that's a bit harsh, but more I mean, you didn't score points at Montreal or Silverstone, and the last couple of rounds you had a shot at victory. Suzuka was one of them too. Does this round really cement your confidence a little bit more in the car?
Suzuka was pretty much cancelled right 5 minutes after it. I could laugh about it. I was in the interview again, so it was pretty much over and dusted for me. And immediately the race after, it was, I don't know which race it was, I think it was Kota, it was all gone. So I was focusing on, you know, you shouldn't carry this too much with you. First, it's only a game, and if you are a competitive guy, so in real sports or in sim racing, you have to get used to get rid of these things, otherwise you will never improve. So I was doing good today, and I'm pretty happy with it. This was the maximum I could achieve, so it's all fine today.
Yeah, you're gonna have a short memory as a racing car driver. But there you go, Will. All done with Michael Dinkel. P2, great solid points for him. And most likely going to get that license for next year again, which is exactly what he needs.
Yeah, and for a number of drivers like Dinkel, it's now about just closing it off for the final couple of rounds of the season. Next up, we are going to have a chat with Alex Simpson, coming home in 4th place today. And he is stood by with Connery Maddock.
Yes, I am, and well, that was a fairly tense race for you coming towards the end there, Alex. You're embroiled in a battle with the PSR machine of Ricardo Orozco, and for a moment there, it did seem like you lost that position, but you had such an intense overspeed coming down the Camel Straight, managed to get that pass back, but was it as intense in the cockpit as it was here up in the booth?
Yeah, hello all. Happy New Year to everybody that's watching. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Certainly not the race that I envisioned going into this one. I was hoping, you know, to have a strong car that was easy to drive, especially towards the end of the stint, and that is definitely not what I had. So yeah, the car was a right handful. The cold weather made it really, really grabby coming off the corners, and I was really struggling with it, being very twitchy. So yeah, I pitted a little bit early because I felt like maybe I was just a tiny bit quicker than Ricardo, and I thought maybe, just maybe, if I can get a couple of laps I can break the DRS and that would keep me free. But to his credit, he was very quick. He just slowly caught me up. I made one mistake that cost me about 3/10, and that just let him back in the DRS, and from there it was on for the rest of the race. And yeah, it was good. I felt fairly comfortable. I could tell he was running a higher downforce trim than me because I really wasn't having to push my ERS very hard down that straight to maintain a gap. And when it did look like he was close, I could just, you know, use the full chat and go and again maintain the position. So got close a couple of times, and then the tyres really were goosed on the about 2 laps to go. And yeah, I made that sort of twitch, I think, going into the bus stop on the penultimate lap, and that let Ricardo get the run into turn 1. And I was quite surprised he went for it there because it really did put the high ground on me, and I pretty much knew that I was on a lower downforce. So it was kind of like, after you, sir, I want the DRS, please. And yeah, I just flipped it open and then realised he was on quite a high downforce in comparison to me, and I just sailed past. It was candy from a baby in the end. So yeah, that was an enjoyable race and a really good race as well. I was perhaps a bit cheeky. I think we were on lap 7 or something like that. He had a go, and I wasn't convinced he was going to get the car stopped and leave me the room on the outside, so I bailed on the corner and had to serve to slow down, but I managed to maintain the position. So that's probably a bit cheeky, but yeah, I played within the iRacing rules, I suppose.
Yeah, because through FIA rules, you might have needed to give that position back there, Alex. But iRacing rules,
I have no doubt. So yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You play to the rules that you've got, and that's why, as we don't have any live stewards that's looking out for any of that. So, you know, you play to within the sim rules. So, and yeah, I'm sure other people have done that in the past as well. I'm not the first person to do it. So a bit cheeky, and I'll happily admit that here. But after all, it was just a great race with him. So. It was nice to return the favour from Suzuka, because all I did was look at his rear wing all race there.
Yeah, well, as long as everything is within the rules, however cheeky it may be, you know, it's going to be gaining you the advantage coming towards the race there. So, any sponsors you want to thank from Alex at the end of this one?
Yeah, sure. Well, I want to thank you guys, as always, doing a great job. And, you know, it's good to see off of all of the streams that you do as well. We've got that iRanking from the Sim Racing Observer. I give a bit of a shout out on our channel the other day, said how much of a good idea that was.
I did
so
see.
Credit to them for doing that. That is a lot of work, and yeah, really looking forward to see how that goes. And then a big shout out to all the team, as always, helping in the background. My dad for spotting. Leah Bodner, SDK Gaming, Precision Sim Engineering, JCL. Who am I forgetting? Some, probably. I'll get shot later.
Well, let's just hope you survived that one, Alexis. That was Alex Simpson, Apex Racing UK team boss, coming home with the very good result of P number 4 when all is said and done, Will. And Alex does mention quite a neat thing here. I hope you don't mind we mention it, but that iRankings and Jake Sperry, mastermind behind that one.
Yeah, indeed. So check that one out. And also, going to have some of that on the new RaceSpotTV website, which will be coming soon, shall we say, when the person doing the website can actually be bothered to actually spend another day coding, because coding's horrible. So, yeah, let's talk very quickly about that moment with Alex Simpson going off at Lacombe Complex, because there'll be 1 or 2 drivers behind Jake who are probably a bit more angry, because it really did bunch up that kind of 5-car pack.
It did, and in terms of slowdown penalties, you know, sometimes you look at it and you think, well, the moment that you serve all that penalty, it's fair game from there. But it was the way that it was served, right in the middle of the track, on the apex of a corner, everyone having to maybe bunch up a little bit more than that was wanted, that really affected the rhythm of the battle that was being seen, and everyone having to adjust, get back into it. You know, sometimes it is a point of racing that, you know, sometimes the slowdown's not done in the best position. There's not normally, you know, enough time to deal with it. This is the road to pro. This is the biggest opportunity you go in. The moment you start being gentlemanly and you start looking to take positions away and lose 3-4 positions, you've got to hope you're really good to bring that back. Of course, with no stewarding here, you know, everything's fair game. So I've got no issues with it in terms of a driving standpoint, but in terms of what that did for the race and in terms of how that affects other drivers, I think other drivers will have a different opinion to me.
We do also need to say, even though there's no live shooting in this series, of course, any driver is able to use the first porting code, which is an integral part of iRacing. For those of you who have never actually been on iRacing before, let's not forget that even though not all races, in fact, most races aren't live stewarded, any driver who does feel aggrieved, if there has been an incident on track, they are able to actually make a protest to the people who look after the first porting code. So that essentially means that there is still stewarding that goes on. So thinking about coming into iRacing, make sure if you're going to make a move, you do it properly, because if you start wrecking people, you're going to be on the sidelines before too long. Let's talk about winners and losers of the day then, Johnny. I'm going to start with you.
Winner is... I'm a fan of success. Our winner is Alex Simpson. Like, if I wanted to talk about that move just before we move on, is if you're going to pull off that move and park on the apex and everything, I don't think you broke any rules. You know, if you want to win, you look at the Patriots with their filming of sessions and all this.
Oh, come on, let's not talk about
rules.
the Patriots. Going into playoff season, Tom Brady can just do one.
That's breaking the rules. But I think when you push the borderline of the rules, creep over, and then go back a little bit, just back to not breaking the rules, like that's success for me. I like that. Winner Alex Simpson here today. Of course, winner Freddie Rasmussen too.
Losers?
From me, losers. Sebastian Job, number 1, please. Yeah. Number 2. The results, I'm not sure who's a loser out there today. I think Sebastian Job was the biggest one. Michael Partington is a winner, I'll tell you that. But I just want to add him to the list as well. Good result for him.
What about you, Jake?
My winner has to be Riley Preston. With the damage that he had from Tommy Osgaard, the fact that he was trying to manage a vehicle which was not steering straight, and the fact that he actually gained positions in the second half of the event with that damage, getting past the likes of Partington and Alona, I think Riley Preston has to be my driver of the day, or my winner, as it were. And in terms of losers, well, you can look down the list. You can definitely say Sebastian Job. You can definitely say David Williams. I think the biggest one coming out of it has to be Diogo Oliveira. He had to push. His teammate didn't give him too much help, and then he had to do more than was capable of him, and in the end that put too much pressure on him. Spins, disqualified for hitting the instant limit after contact with Spolstra, and both of them end up finishing 18th and 19th, and that's not going to be good enough for them to continue on with a championship challenge. I think Oliveira is the biggest loser of today.
What about you, Connery?
Well, just looking at things as they are right now, a driver that, again, it's just like he's not there embroiled in battles all that much. But Moritz Lohner, again, a solid P7 finish, another solid top 10 finish for him. He's a driver that I feel has really evolved throughout this series and is one of the most consistent drivers in the entirety of this field. There's also an honorable mention going into Carl Winkler as well, getting himself his top 10 in that Core Sim Racing machine. And, you know, disappointments to this race, of course. You just have to say Sebastian Job at this point. And also, I would have expected a little bit more from Josh Thompson. He was pretty optimistic going into this race, but finish as a result of an early instant, 37 laps down. That's not great for him.
Yeah, indeed. So, and of course, the next time we head out into the series, it will be at Imola. Talked about it a little bit already. It is a fast but tight track. They've taken away that final chicane of the corner over the last 10 years. They changed the track. It is still fast, but it's also very difficult to overtake at. That is all we are going to have time for here today, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to Isfan Balau's track cams for gourmets, Andreas Warner and Ant One Design for our graphical overlays package, and to Simon Grossman of appgeneer.in for fantastic graphical overlay that you see. Well, timing and scoring presented by Nick Thurston. All the work he does for that one, thank you so much. And of course, we'll be back in 1 week's time as we head over to Imola. Today we've seen some hearts broken, we've seen some tickets maybe just taken away for the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, but it's not over yet. There's still more work to do, and P7 through 10 in the championship, that is still wide open. Thank you so much for watching here today. We'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye.